to be working now. Yep, okay. For whatever, now it's working. Now I feel confident in putting my headphones in. So thanks for sticking with me. And I do sound good, right? Okay, let's go. If my volume is too loud or too quiet or too low or the game's too high or too low. Oh, let me set the timer, because we're gonna be playing Sonic for. Yeah, okay. We're gonna be playing Sonic for about an hour, then we'll play Undertale for an hour, and then that'll be the stream, and we'll now I was really happy to be able to to showcase the 8-bit version of Sonic, because you use a blue USB capture device. Oh, okay. Well, it's funny because it's one of those paradoxes, sort of like with Windows, where everyone always complains about it, but it's also what everyone, well, nearly everyone, practically everyone uses. Where everyone complains about it, but very few people try to seek a better alternative. So I just got an Elgato just because everyone was using it, and like I hear all the good things about it, but also all the bad things about it. So I was really expecting to have to fight with it a lot more, but I plugged it in a month ago when I first got it, and it just worked perfectly. So I don't know what just. I think whatever happened is. I feel like it's more likely something to do with OBS. Maybe. We'll see. Because once I restarted it, it was fine. Well, that's the thing. They're not. It's like such a near monopoly that everyone's afraid of, because I mean, I kind of fell victim to it too, because it's like, okay, I hear everyone complaining about their Elgatos, but if most people are using Elgatos, then whenever people have problems, the majority of the problems are going to be about that specific product. So it's not even necessarily that the product is inferior, even if it is actually inferior. But if 90% of people are using it, when there are problems, you're going to be hearing about it with that specific product. Now, I was really... oh, by the way, it's nice seeing you, TSS. It's, I haven't been hanging out in the city much lately, so I didn't get to run into you at events like we always used to. But it's been a real blast being able to... Well, really, my main... The one thing that what made me want to stream more than anything else was just demonstrating games that don't get a lot of play on Twitch. And the Game Gear version of Sonic doesn't get a lot of play. And the 8-bit version in general, it does get some play, but it's often from European streamers who, because the Master System did much better in Europe than in the US. So, whereas Sonic the Hedgehog was of the final English release in the final American release on the Master System, and it was only in limited quantities. But in Europe, the Master System was, and in South and Central America, the Master System was going on until the late 90s. Mister? Yeah, I don't know much about that. The reason I got this, I really didn't know much about Analog's reputation. It's just I heard that once I heard when they announced it and they said that you could play Game Gear cartridges on it, that's what sold me. Because I just want to point out real quick, I love that this little warning sign here saying that there's about to be an unavoidable hazard. Even though gameplay-wise, there's nothing, you do eventually have to jump down there. Now, that's interesting. Why did they make an invisible hole there rather than just have an obvious pit that you have to jump down? They just made an invisible barrier that you end up falling down. when they could have just made an obvious hole that would be the way to progress forward. Because in the Master System version, which isn't dealing with the screen crunch, for this version, I believe the Master System version was made first, which ironically, Japan never got the Master System version, or Mark III as it would be there. The Master System version was just for Europe, North America, where it barely got released at all, and in South America. Now, okay. You know, Ash Said Hi suggested I adjust the frame rate on OBS to, and that would make it so that, because the transparency effect for the Sonic Shield and the shimmering effect for the Chaos Emerald are both, they basically just flash the sprite on and off quickly. And when I had it on the original, I think I had it on 30, I think, and I'd see it okay on my monitor, but on the broadcast, you'd either see Sonic or you'd see the shield, and never both at once. It would just sort of flicker between them not in the way it intended, in like a very slow way. But now it looks great. So thanks, Ash, for that the tip. I don't care so much about it being, you know, PC emulation for Master System and Game Gear is more than accurate enough, you know, to the point where the Sonic 8-bit community accepts emulation runs. That's how accurate PC emulation is. But I wanted to be able to use, well, yeah, you see the flicker, but it's a night and day difference compared to how it was my last stream from the day before yesterday. Now it actually, there were parts where Sonic would just disappear for multiple seconds at a time. And now the flicker's there, it stutters maybe a bit more than when you see it in person. But now it is an excellent, it just looks great. You know, it doesn't have the problem anymore. It got to the point where I was actually avoiding getting the shield so that it wouldn't, so that it wouldn't disrupt my viewers' ability to actually see Sonic. Yeah, so I didn't care so much about the emulation being accurate, but I prefer to play games in somewhat, in somewhat of an accurate manner, where I prefer to play it in a manner that somewhat reflects the game's official release history. So, like, the original cartridge of this is part of the release history. This game was released, the Master System version of this was released on the Wii Virtual Console, so yes, that is emulation, but it is part of the game's official release history. So I'm playing an original cartridge here, even though it obviously would have been played on an HD FPGA console. But I was actually considering a Retron console to play Game Gear games, but there were the adapters that I saw that allowed the play of Game Gear games were not, well, it just wasn't, the reviews were very poor in general, so I didn't have much confidence in it. And then when I heard that Analog was making a console that, you know, could play the cartridges in real time, because you can play your cartridges with the Retron systems, but it's ripping the ROM off of the cartridge and then playing it on an emulator, whereas this is playing the cartridge in real time. And this is actually my childhood cartridge of Sonic the Hedgehog that my parents got me back in '91. Because I knew about the NES and Super NES. I was passively aware of them. And I grew up in New York, and my mom would, I used to do a lot of commercial work that I'd go to auditions for. And when you do the auditions, you're in a waiting room, and there'd be lots of other kids. And once you memorized your lines, there was nothing to really do but wait to get called in for the whatever test footage they wanted to shoot, or to talk to the people that were doing the casting. So a lot of the kids had Game Boys and Game Gears, so I was kind of passively aware of them. I wasn't. Oh, the retro N5 is garbage. 3 frames of lag in the. Oh yeah, they weren't even. Some of the emulators weren't even properly licensed, which is a real shame when people take advantage of, you know, things that are available freely and licensed to use freely if you're, you know, for non-commercial purposes. That's partially the reason why I decided my approach to YouTube is I don't plan to do it professionally. I plan to do it just for fun. And I didn't want to do it until... I didn't want to have to worry about relying on ad revenue. And so because of that, I'm not just going to run ads and then if the game happens to... if the video happens not to get flagged or copyright claimed or anything, then, you know, I'll just enjoy the ad revenue. I'm just not even going to bother putting... I'm just going to specifically not do ad revenue on them. Because then it would let me... I'd be open to use a lot of Creative Commons licensed resources. And a lot of people do use Creative Commons stuff in videos that they put ad revenue for. But, you know, I'd be able to do it with a totally clear conscience. Like, yes, I am not in any way profiting from this material that was created to be, you know, shared freely and, you know, for non-commercial purposes. And plus, if I were to get a copyright strike or something like that, or even be brought to court, if I was using game footage or certain amounts of music, you know, in a fair use context, I'd have a much... I feel I'd have a much stronger fair use argument if I never enabled the videos for ad revenue, especially since a lot of the material that would be most likely to be potentially copyright claimed or have legal issues is stuff that I would be... are things that I feel I'd have a very strong fair use rationale for, because, you know, I would prefer it, you know, if things were just lenient in general when it comes to copyright enforcement. But, I mean, the things I want to do, I've seen people do far more, things that would have a far more difficult time a much more difficult time proving fair use for, and they, you know, either don't have legal problems or they might have a copyright claim made that they're able to successfully dispute. So I feel like I'm going to be on good standing for the stuff that I'm going to do. But that's part of the reason I didn't want to come back to YouTube until I could do it purely for fun, because if I had to stress out about, you know, am I going to be able to eat if my next video becomes a hit, but then it gets copyright claimed or I get a copyright strike, I won't have to worry about that, so I feel like I'll have a lot more creative freedom. For that reason, some of my videos might not have the same sort of pizzazz that some might. Like in my Real Univa videos, there's some things like screenshots. I'd use a small amount of video from the games, but I feel I have a good fair use argument for. But then I also went and took the soundtrack, like in the Nacreed City video where I was going around comparing Nacreed City to Dumbo. I used the music from Nacreed City in the video just as background music. That was just to dress up the video and make it look nicer, or, you know, just for the presentation. As being objective, as far as fair use goes, I don't feel like I have a fair use rationale for it. Yeah, it's nice that I was able to. It's nice that I didn't get in any trouble for it. But if it came time to bring it to court, I feel like if a judge would probably say that wasn't fair use, using the background music just to sort of dress up the video, but using the screenshots to compare it to how the actual location it was based on is, I think that does fall under fair use. So I'm gonna just sort of police myself and think, like, you know, objectively, you know, what was fair use meant for, and, you know, and am I using it in a way that I feel like I could defend myself in court if it came to that. It won't, but, you know, just as far as how I conduct myself, you know, that's the route I'm going to take. Now, by the way, the nature of discussions in real time, of course, is, you know, things meander off and I get off in the weeds, and one subject sort of turns into another. There we go. Yeah, better safe than sorry. But, and then because I'm not relying on YouTube ad revenue as a source of income, you know, I won't have to sweat it. You know, I'm not gambling with, you know, my livelihood, you know, as it were. Yeah, I'm not worried. Oh no, but what I was going to say is I don't mind meandering, but if there's a particular line of discussion that I came off of that you'd like me to go back to, feel free to. Because I think about one thing, then I'll talk about another thing I care about, then I'll talk about another thing I care about, and then I'll think, oh, I forgot, I wanted to finish. Because what I would like to go back to now is how I knew about kids who had Game Boy and Game Gear in the, in the waiting rooms of, these offices and place where they were holding these auditions. And I really didn't care that much. Like, I knew about NES and Super NES. I wasn't sophisticated enough to know the difference between them. But what I remember in particular was one day I was watching. I usually just suggest people to contribute to their Patreon and stuff. Yeah, I'd have to get to a certain size if I. Yeah, right now I'm not really worried about Patreon or something like that, but yeah, that's a way a lot of people are relying on it. I used to have a couple of I used to subscribe to Pop Arena's Patreon. I like the videos he makes. I don't even watch them. There's so much content out there. You can't watch everything, but I just watch his stuff I still subscribe to him even though I didn't even watch his. I contributed to his Patreon even though I didn't. Here we have the precursor of Sonic Spinball right here, a special stage, and we have flippers and bumpers and springs. So even early on, and because this is the second Sonic game created, the people who, Ancient, who made the 8-bit port of Sonic the Hedgehog, recognized, well, he's in a ball all the time, he moves quickly, there's, some affinity between Sonic and pinball. Yeah, I see, I'm not even sophisticated enough to know about Mister, and frankly, I'm not even sophisticated enough to have known the difference between FPG. Well, I knew kind of what FPGA was because I was following all the drama regarding the Coleco Chameleon. So in the course of that, I ended up learning about what FPGA was. Oh, and it's kind of embarrassing to die there because in the home console version of this on Master System, you don't have the screen crunch, so the arenas were much bigger. So when they redesigned this Robotnik battle, they made it a lot simpler, and there are actually two different places you could hide. You could hide there, or you could hide there, and Robotnik's bullets will never hit you at either of those spots. Now, these aren't speedrun strats, mind you, I didn't know that these safe spots were there when I was a little kid. I would have made this a lot easier, because... Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. A lot of the stuff that's going on in terms of, there's a world-changing global event going on, and you're not allowed to discuss it or even briefly mention it, or you just get instantly demonetized. It's really out of control. Well, it's not out of control. It's too much control, which is the problem. So when they redesigned this, they made these two safe zones here. I hear a lot of people say, even people who know the Master System version, one of the main complaints I hear about this game, among people who treat it fairly, because some people will just dismiss this as a watered-down port of the Genesis version, but they actually put grade A talent into this. Yuzo Koshiro did, he did his own original tracks, like the Bridge Zone theme there. He did the Robotnik theme. He did an all-new Robotnik theme that I like a lot more than the 16-bit version. Mind you, the 16... I keep saying mind you a lot. I need to work on those verbal tics. And this is a new stage right here. The Jungle Zone. Which did not appear in the Genesis version. Which has its own unique theme for it. And here's where the difficulty starts to ramp up a bit. So we have news, and an interesting thing is I mentioned that there's that they did remixes of some of the tracks, like the Green Hill theme, the End of Stage theme, but they also did a remix of Marble Zone from the Genesis version. Yeah, it was complete. Yeah, this was developed completely different. I'm not sure to what extent they may have been working side by side on it. I think this, well, this definitely released after the Genesis version. And I just like the fact that they actually remixed the Marble Zone theme, and I guess maybe they decided that the Marble Zone wasn't a good fit for what the 8-bit hardware was capable of. That's a very awkward spot to get knocked off there, because it's hard to jump back onto the log, because the water slows you down being able to jump back up there. So they remixed the Marble Zone theme and put it in the cartridge. It's still in the ROM file, but it is not in the game. It's not used in the game. And they decided to do Bridge Zone instead. And now this will probably be interesting to hear as a Sonic fan. I'm wearing this Sonic shirt. It looks like it's not from 1992. It looks like it's from 1992. It's not that old, but it's pretty old. It's nice and worn out. And I wanted to wear it in case I beat the game today. Because I came very close to beating this game on my old stream, because I never beat this game before. Because when you're a little kid and you're playing it, you know, we didn't have battery backups back then. And so when you're playing in the back seat of Mom's car, or I'm playing waiting for my audition, and oh, it's time for the audition, or oh, you know, the car ride's over, you just turn the game off and you lose your progress. Now, aside from that, I'm also a little kid, and I'm not as skilled back then. You know, you couldn't develop strategies like the safe zones of where to hide from Robotnik's bullets. Now, this game does not have the loop-de-loops. I wonder if they just... Later Sonic games on the 8-bit systems do have loop-de-loops, but I think they might have decided that the loop-de-loops they wanted to play to what they felt the 8-bit hardware was capable of. So instead of the loop-de-loops, they have these ramps, and I think the ramps appear, and they appear in Green Hill Zone, and they appear here in Marble Zone. I mean, not Marble, in Jungle Zone. That ramp there, I believe, is the last one that appears in this version of the game. So they just played to the strengths of the hardware, and in the course of that, they ended up creating some unique zones. Those being Marble Zone. I mean, no. The Bridge Zone is new to this version of the game. Jungle Zone is unique to this version of the game. And they added a new zone, Sky Base, which actually follows Scrap Brain. So the game does not end in Scrap Brain in this version. It actually continues to another zone after that, which follows Scrap Brain. And so, yeah, my parents got this for me for when I was in waiting rooms, you know, waiting to do auditions. And also while I was getting my hair braided, my parents presented this to me when the first time I ever got my hair braided. I was at a family friend's house, and my dad gave me the cartridge. I said, oh, Sonic the Hedgehog, I know what this is, you know. I knew this had something to do with Game Gear and video games. I didn't quite know what to do with the cartridge, though. And then he actually handed me the Game Gear, and then I put the cartridge in, and then I figured it out from there. Now, this is the first Robotnik fight that isn't a total giveaway. Oh, no, actually, excuse me. This is only stage 2 of Jungle Zone. Now, this stage is one of the levels that makes this a lot easier than the Master System version, because the Master System version of this vertically scrolling stage, the home console version, it runs on Kid Icarus logic or Contra logic, where if something scrolls off the bottom of the screen, it no longer exists. So, like I didn't mean to do that. So once the platforms are off screen, if you fall, even if it's like 1 pixel off of the screen, it dies. Oh, well, it didn't take that long at first because my hair was really short. Come on. Come on. Yeah, it didn't take that long at first because my hair was very short, but at the same time, I'm a little kid, so time is relative. So sitting down for even just an hour probably seemed like forever. And I first got my hair braided because I was one of those little kids that didn't like getting haircuts. But the reason I actually talked to my parents about Sonic and video games was because I was watching cartoons one day. Ooh, that was close. I'm glad I did not fall into those spikes. was watching cartoons and I saw the commercial that Sega made for the first Sonic the Hedgehog. It was called, they did a couple of commercials with this character, and this one was, it was Humans Against Genesis, or HAG, or HAG, and it was this, you know, this snobby old lady stereotype. And she was complaining about Sonic, and why does he run so fast, and why does he have such an attitude, why is he such a smarty pants? And I was a pretty meek little kid, but I guess seeing this lady complaining about Sonic, and she has like a little picture of Sonic on her desk, and the picture of Sonic comes alive, and I think he starts like sticking his tongue out at her or something like that. And something about that really appealed to me. And so I told my parents about it, and I was kind of confused. I thought it was called Sega the Hedgehog, I think. Yeah, I thought it was called Sega the Hedgehog or something. And I didn't even ask my parents for it, because I didn't ask my parents for many toys, but this is one of the few commercials that got me to go out and ask my parents about it. So I asked my parents, well, I didn't ask my parents for it, I just told them about it. And sometime later, they surprised me with the Game Gear and Sonic. I didn't even really know the difference between the home systems and the handheld. Well, I knew that one was stationary and one was... I just knew about Sega, and I knew about Sonic the Hedgehog and that it was a video game. And it was really, I guess, when I saw it at my... No, it wasn't. It was when we rented a Genesis system. We rented one while I was at a family we went out of state for a family trip, and when we got there, they rented a Genesis console and Sonic the Hedgehog to keep me and another family member entertained, because, you know, it wasn't much. Well, I guess they're afraid I'd be bored, and so I was playing Sonic on Game Gear on the way there. Then when we got out of state, we actually I got scared for a second, because I looked out of the corner of my eye at chat, and I thought, I keep, glancing at chat, and I thought it said, I need to tell you something, sit down and stand still, like, uh-oh, what's going on? Or I thought I was bouncing my leg, which is one of my stims that I have, is to bounce my leg a lot. Now, the Labyrinth Zone, fun fact, the English nerd in me commemorates sort of when I learn new words. This zone, Labyrinth, is my first exposure to the word labyrinth, and my parents explained it means like kind of like a maze. Now, Labyrinth Zone appears in the original game for Genesis, but it does not. But it does not have this music. It has its own musical theme, and the Labyrinth Zone on Genesis has a very laid-back kind of musical theme. But here, it's a little more energetic, has a bit more punch or attitude to it that Yuzo Koshiro decided to go with for this. I know I'm biased because this is the version that I grew up with, but I never... I actually prefer the classic, this version to the original. I need to go here and bounce up. There, I got my oxygen, and now I'm ready to keep moving. Now, back in the day, this was as far as my runs would get, because Robotnik and Jungle took me out a lot of the time, and because I'd lose a lot of runs just to, having to finish the game. Having to turn off the game, because it was Game Gear, so you didn't have a whole lot of battery life. Batteries back then, it'd last 2 or 3 hours if you were lucky. Now, my parents did go with the Game Gear, because they were in Toys R Us, and they were, had to decide, Game Boy or Game Gear. Well, with Game Gear, I had mentioned Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic is on Game Gear and not Game Boy. And plus, they were thinking a lot of, during the weekends, I would go with my dad to work, and he had like an hour and a half drive to work every day. So we'd head out early at like 6 or 7 a.m., and then we'd come back late, and, I'd be in the salon my dad had, and then we'd drive back, and on the drive back, it would be dark, and in the backseat of the car, I couldn't play you can't play a Game Boy in the dark without a flashlight or something. I'm not worried, because the countdown is very generous. When you get down to 0, it gives you like, it feels like 7 or 8 full seconds, or even more, before it actually gives you the time up and gives you. I don't want to say takes your life away because it sounds too dramatic. Before Sonic dies, it gives you a nice long countdown once you get to 0 before you actually lose a life. But fortunately, it doesn't do that infamous that jingle from Sonic 2 where it's like dun 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 dun. If that was in the 8-bit version of Sonic 1, I would hate it. I would probably have a lot of anxiety in any water stage, but it was very tame with its warning countdown. I was like 4 or 5 or whatever, so I don't think I would have done that, but yeah, I was a well-behaved, I would keep myself, I don't remember if, well, one thing I remember I do a lot, while I was at work, while Dad was working and I was in his salon, is there were the trees that would make those kind of seeds that, came down like little helicopters. So I'd just collect a bunch of those and throw them in the air and let them fall down. Or if it was raining, I'd go outside and go look at the worms in the mud puddles. So I'm glad that I didn't have a totally digital childhood. I was in that nice in-between where I had a Game Boy eventually. I had Game Gear, but I also had an Etch-a-Sketch and not an Etch-a-Sketch app for an iPad or whatever kids have now. Saying that makes me sound a lot older than I am, but yeah, I'm glad my childhood wasn't totally electronic and I have very fond childhood memories of, oh shoot, I'm about to run out of time. Yeah, could have got 10 more rings, but kids do weird stuff, and either maliciously or out of pure innocence, do some pretty silly things sometimes. So, yeah, so my parents got me they decided, yeah, I could actually play it in the dark. Of course, the downside to that, woo! I clipped right through those spikes. Let's see, what time is that? That's, 32 minutes into the broadcast? I'd like to clip that. That's another frame-perfect moment. That's another fun thing about having all these recorded, is that, it's an interesting concept, Jaws. I've never played it, but it's an interesting concept to, yeah, okay. It's an interesting concept to have a final boss that you could encounter from the very beginning of the game, but you can't actually take him out because you're not strong enough. That was an interesting idea, but it just seems like they went about it in a very boring way. It's like an action game with grinding. Like an RPGs might have grinding, but an action game basically with grinding. Mind you, my only exposure to it was the Angry Video Game Nerd Review. Yeah, your first console was the 2600 TSS? That's interesting, because my first console was Game Gear. Well, my first video game was Mattel Electronics Football 2, which was a hand-me-down. So when I say that I have genuine nostalgia for Mattel Electronics Football 2, people will think I'm a lot older than I am. And I'm sure when you say that that when your first system was Atari 2600, people probably think you're a lot older than you are. Well, in my first computer, the first computer I ever used was an Apple II. And people think that I'm a lot older than I am when I say that. But those Apple IIs were in service up until the late 90s. I was using them in the early 90s. Yeah, that's another thing about a lot of those... Yeah, there we go. It's hard to get the right amount of momentum to be able to get that one up. Because you have to have momentum in order to break the monitor. Now, I never actually played an original Atari 2600. I never got to play Atari games until about 2003 or so. No, it was about, I think, 1999 on my Revision A, my first generation iMac. I was able to find emulators for the Atari 2600. Oh, come on. And that's the first chance I had to play it. I never got to play it with an actual joystick until those plug-and-plays came out. Yeah, oh. So all that time, I got the air bubble, but then died because I didn't have rings. Yeah, people forget about hand-me-downs, and people forget about families that didn't have a lot of income. You know, so there's a meme going around, like, oh, you play whatever. You've been following me on YouTube a year, you enjoyed my train excursions? You know, it's interesting you should mention that, because today is the 5th anniversary of my visit to the Bluebell Railway in England. And that was such an incredible experience. You know, 90%, you know, I'm just calling myself out. That's a verbal tick that I need to get better at avoiding. I need to vary my vocabulary a bit more. Yes, it is human nature to develop those verbal ticks. Every language has its own different versions of and you know, but I just I guess it's the my English background, my English education background. I just want to cut down on those things. But my yeah, there we go. There we go again. But yeah, it's the 5th anniversary of my visit to the Bluebell Railway, and the vast majority of my footage and photographs I have never made public. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I was able to. Basically, since even in 2015, when I went to the Bluebell Railway, it was my equipment, my computers and my hard drives. It was all just slow, and the one video I have, it's like H on the Bluebell Railway Day 0 and H on the Bluebell Railway Day 1. Those videos... Been riding more Japanese trains. Yeah. Yeah, I never got to talk to you much about your Japan excursions, but, you know, calling myself out. I wonder if I should do some kind of incentive, you-know counter or something like that. And make myself have to tick up on it each time I do one of those things, or that Chad calls me out on it. That'll train me to get better at that. Yeah, I hope you you don't have to disclose, of course, but I hope you aren't too financially in the hole, because you make obligations in terms of lodging and transportation well in advance when you plan a trip like that. I hope you I've never been to Disneyland, but I did take the monorail at Walt Disney World in Florida but I haven't been there since. I only went there once in 1998, and I have not been there since then. And it's interesting because I went there, like, I think about a month after Animal Kingdom opened, so I was there when the park was still brand new. And there's a version of the, I guess the safari ride thing that at Disney Animal Kingdom. So I rode a very early version of it, where there are references to poachers infiltrating the preserve and killing one of the elephants. And you actually see the dead elephant, and it's like bloody and stuff. And they had to take that element out of the ride. Oh, I'm gonna... Please. Look how much time I was so close. But that's a very generous. Okay, everything got to move to October, no cost. I'm glad they could work that out. I hope they could get things under control there to the point where it's safe to travel. And safe and reasonable for you to travel. But so we'll see what happens. Oh, you had to keep an eye on toddlers, and you didn't get to enjoy much of it. Calcaboy 75. Now, is it like Calcaboy, or is it like Calcaboy, just like one word, or the separations really pronounced? Now, I had a... Oh no. Okay, but it's very, very generous with the time there. Yeah, I was the little kid there. It was just me, my mother, and my grandmother at Disney World when I went. So you know, they just kept an eye on me, and you know, I'm pretty well behaved. Oh, but that's what I was getting at to finish that thought. It was a version of the safari ride, Jeep ride thing, where they reference poachers invading the preserve and killing one of the animals. And there's a part where you're supposed to be they're pretending to chase after them. Oh, yeah, that's another thing about this version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Skull in Spanish. Okay. Yeah, the Chaos Emeralds are within the stages themselves here. They're just sort of hidden slightly out of the way. In this version of Sonic, if you're not familiar with it... Calico Boy. Okay. In this version of Sonic, in the Genesis version, the panels always start with Robotnik's face and always end, and you flip it, run past it, and it turns into Sonic's face. Here, it starts with a question mark, and you'll have different bonuses depending on... You'll have different bonuses depending on what the panel lands on. If you have 50 or more rings, the panel will land on an exclamation mark, and you'll be given the chance to play a special stage. Instead of going for Chaos Emeralds, the special stage is only to give you the chance to get points, and no one really cares too much about points. The real point is to give you the chance to get extra lives and to get continues. You can get extra lives by collecting 100 rings. You can get extra lives by... There's usually a marker for a extra life in the special stage somewhere, and you can get a continue by hitting the continue box. In this version of Sonic the Hedgehog, there are no rings in the boss fights, so every single boss fight has to be a perfect run. So I'm focusing a little bit more on talking less. 20 minutes from your house? You have an annual pass? Oh yeah. Yeah, we all have those special things nearby us that, you know, we can't quite enjoy right now. But hopefully this gets under control and things we'll be able to enjoy those things again. Whenever I'd go to like Bryant Park in New York City and get a Belgian waffle, or whenever I'd ride the subway or go to Coney Island, I just said ride the New York City subway as a special thing. I'm not a usual person, okay? Excuse me. Or go to my favorite, you know, walking paths or anything that I like doing. I really, really went out of my way to savor it. Now here we are in Scrap Brain Zone. Look at the sprite. Just look. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I just restarted the game because I was pointing up and I pressed start, and that's my my button combo to activate the menu for the console system menu. And I just restarted the game. I made it to Scrap Brain Zone and restarted the game. Okay. I have to remember to never hold up while pressing start while I'm doing this, because I accidentally activated the menu. What did I think of the monorail at Disney World? Well, I like trains since probably before I could even say the word train. So, I was fascinated by monorails since I was a little kid. Now, this version, if you're not familiar with it, the 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog has a map screen that shows your progress through the island that Sonic lives on as you get closer and closer to Robotnik's base. And in the Genesis version, there's no depiction of what the island looks like, whereas in this version, they decided to build on the lore a bit and actually visually depict the island. And if you watch the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that just released on DVD and Blu-ray recently, Now, there are no loop-de-loops in this version of Sonic the Hedgehog, but I guess that they weren't confident in the console's ability, the Master System or Game Gear hardware. They weren't confident in the ability to do the loop-de-loops, So they played to the system's strength and tried to make different ways to have Sonic move fast to give that sense of speed. One way is doing that ramp that launches you up high very quickly. And this is also the only spot, this is the only stage in the game that has the super shoes that make Sonic run extra fast. So while they weren't able to have the speed like they could in the Genesis version with the loop-de-loops and such, they played to the 8-bit hardware strengths and found different ways to let players have a nice sense of speed in that opening city. What did I think of Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik? I'm glad you asked that question. That's a very great question to ask, because Dr. Robotnik was one of my favorite characters growing up. And actually, get a moment to pause and just shake my arms out a bit, because I never really encountered having tingling feelings in my fingers while playing games until I started streaming, because I guess I'm holding my hands in the same spot for so long. Even when I'm playing video games, I never really have that problem. And mind you, I borderline almost fell off of playing games, and the time I stream is that video games are really the last thing I do with my free time. But the interest in being able to share these games that don't get a lot of play otherwise, talk about my experiences with them and how they affected my life, that was really why I wanted to start streaming. But Dr. Robotnik is one of my favorite characters. My favorite video game villains, one of my favorite characters of all time. And what I loved... Well, let me tell you about how I first learned about Dr. Robotnik. So I'm a little kid. I'm getting my hair braided for the first time. My parents give me my Game Gear with Sonic the Hedgehog. They surprised me with it as I was getting my hair braided for the first time. And I think I played played through it a little bit, and then my parents gave me the manual. And so I'm reading the manual, and as I'm reading the manual, I'm reading, Dr. Robotnik is capturing animals and turning them into robots. That is how it is explained in the American manuals for Sonic the Hedgehog. It doesn't say that Robotnik is capturing animals and putting them inside robots and using their life essence to power the robots. They're saying that Robotnik is transforming animals into robots, which I guess is a much easier concept to explain than that Robotnik is putting animals inside robots. And it sounds more dramatic, frankly. And the fact that they decided to describe what Robotnik is doing as turning the animals into robots rather than putting the animals inside robots played into the depiction of roboticization that you have in the American Sonic Saturday morning Sonic cartoon series, where you see he puts them in the machine and you actually see them get transformed into robots. And even just reading that lore in the manual, that really that I guess made an impact on me as a kid, because in a lot of children's media, some sort of magical or science-based transformation is one of the ways that you could have a situation of peril in a kid's... Oh wow, you dogged me out there. I don't know if I'll be able to get the special stage in this. Now, you saw me go get the Chaos Emerald there. It is not obvious to go there. And as a kid, I'd bypass. I'd just go straight up. It's not especially... Yeah, it's not especially obvious that there's another path down there. So the emeralds are very slightly off the beaten path, but transformation is a way that you can have a sense of peril in a child-friendly medium without having danger of death. A character might get transformed into an animal temporarily, or turned into a robot, or something like that. Or in Pinocchio, the infamous, when the kids get transformed into donkeys. A lot of people, that's their first encounter with real nightmare fuel. And so when you or in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or lots of cartoons, there'd be times where characters get transformed into monsters temporarily. Like, I know there was that one episode where the Rat King transforms April and that other dude into rats for the episode, and at the end they get changed back. So transformation is a way you can have peril in a work of fiction that's aimed at younger audiences, where there's a sense of danger, but the danger is reversible. If something bad happens to the character, they can still get changed back. So as a kid, seeing that, they're, Robotnik's capturing animals and turning them into robots, it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I have to stop this guy, you know? You have a real sense of, you know, you want to go after this guy and, you know, and stop him and make things right again. And having that, you know, I've read interviews about how the idea of Dr. Robotnik or Dr. Eggman in the original version, and so you have this scientist who's building he's building robots, and he wants to turn all the forests into factories and replace all the animals with robots. And it's a very sort of this theme of sort of nature versus science. Or I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Yuji Naka. It was sort of based on the conflicts, the societal conflicts between environmentalists and industrialists. How they both, there's a bit of, and so to get to Calcaboy, to get to your question, your original question. So Dr. Robotnik, he was a villain that I loved to hate. It was worth, you know, the stories in these games are very minimal. So the action, yeah, I started playing this. I didn't know who Sonic was. I didn't know why he was running through this area and defeating these robots. But you want to have, it was important to have a villain that was worth fighting. And when you have the technical limitations, it was worth having a villain that's easy to understand. But you feel satisfied going after him and fighting him. So Robotnik meant a lot to me from a young age. So I always cared a lot about Robotnik, and one of the things I liked was all the different interpretations of him. You know, in the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog weekday morning cartoon series, it was a very comedic, sort of bumbling take on Robotnik. And in Sonic the Hedgehog, or Sad AM, the Saturday morning series that was a little darker and edgier, and more plot-driven, that version of Robotnik was a more sinister dictator. And I loved both of those series growing up. Yes, it's true that now that I'm an adult, it's harder to go back to Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, whereas Sonic Sad AM, the themes of it, the tone of it, it's something I can connect with now, and I feel like Sonic Sad AM was my first real encounter with the theme that sometimes bad people do become in charge. Sometimes the official authorities are something that you actually have to take a stand against, even though it's illegal to do so. So the idea of fighting for freedom, of, you know, an underground resistance. What is my favorite version of Robotnik? Yeah, that's what I was getting into. My favorite has to be probably Sad AM Sonic, which kind of crosses over into the Archie Comics version of Robotnik. And Archie Comics is a whole other mess, because in Archie Comics, it got so crazy that it got to the point where, in Archie Comics lore, Dr. Robotnik and Dr. Eggman are literally different people. They are separate individuals who, in multiple occasions, actually appear together in this, you know, and actually interact with each other. Because Dr. Robotnik is the main version of Robotnik, and then Dr. Eggman is a parallel universe Robotnik who roboticized himself, and then ended up coming to the main universe and downloading himself into a new body that resembles the modern version of Dr. Eggman that was depicted from Sonic Adventure onward. And my favorite has to be Sad AM / Archie Comics. That being Dr. Robotnik Prime, as he's called. These both in the comics, the animated version, the Sad AM version, and the as well as the comics version. Both versions, the Robotnik and Eggman versions in the comic, they count as one. So both of the Sonic Sad AM / Archie Comics is my official answer. Archie Comics encompassing both the original Dr. Robotnik and Dr. Eggman. And that's what I was getting at. All these different versions of Robotnik. You have so you have two versions from the cartoons. You know, the Adventures of Sonic version. You have the Stat AM version. I didn't see Sonic Underground as a kid, so I really don't know much. I haven't seen it yet, but he's basically seemingly the same for the most part as the Sonic Stat AM version, for the most part. And then you have the versions in the games, the different depictions of him. so then you have the Sonic Boom version of him, where Steve-O... Oh, Steve-O Supremo, thank you very much for the donation. I'm not sure if... I'm having trouble getting my alerts to work. I'm going to pause for a second. And well, let me get up and stretch my arms a bit so that I don't end up having my limbs fall asleep in the middle of the stream. Yeah, gotta take care of yourself. Can't get too carried away. Yeah, that's one reason playing video games tends to be one of the last things I do, because I like moving around. On a day where I don't leave my home, I could get easily 10 or 20,000 steps. Yeah, so yes, so thank you very much for your donation. You know, I hope it's the last, just as playing video games, you know, off stream is the last thing I tend to do with my free time. It's when I have nothing else to do. I hope that's you know, I appreciate it so much. It is so appreciated. It is never ever necessary. You know, take care of yourself first. You know, make sure you know your responsibilities are paid. Get yourself something nice to eat or whatever. You know, consider donating to a charitable cause. You know, if you want to donate to someone, donate to the American Humane Association. They do work, you know, protecting both. They protect animals, which, you know, but the American Humane Association in particular, they help animals as well as children. And animals and children are, you know, some of the most, they're reliant on the people around them to do the right thing and care for them. And when they're being abused, they, you know, often don't have a chance, have a voice. So the American Humane Association does, you know, they do great work. And so if you're gonna, so consider a donation to the American Humane Association, and if you know, you've done all that, you don't have to. I'm not telling you to do I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm saying, you know, and if you have a few extra bucks that you want to, you know, throw at some guy who's playing video games on the internet, you know, I'm honored that I'm your guy that you chose to do that for. You know, so. My thoughts on Jim Carrey. Yes, excuse me. This has been. Thank you. My thoughts on Jim Carrey. When they announced Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, I was like, this. If nothing else goes right with this Sonic the Hedgehog movie, Jim Carrey as Robotnik will be the one thing that goes right with this. I liked it a lot. I liked his performance a lot, and what I love, and some of the interviews before the movie came out, he actually touched on this himself, which I thought was, I was so pleased to hear him say this, is because there've been so many interpretations of Eggman or Robotnik, and they've acted differently sometimes, but at the bottom of it all, what you have is someone who's intellectually incredibly smart, but he's emotionally bankrupt. He's emotionally defective. He doesn't have any emotional intelligence. He's so smart that he knows he's incredibly smart, and he knows that he's so smart that he thinks that he can control everything with his machines, and that if everyone just listened to him, that the world would be perfect. And because he can't accept that he can't control everything with his machines, that's why he always ends up losing to Sonic and his friends. And I think they really nailed that aspect of how they wrote the Dr. Robotnik character in the Sonic movie. And the performance and the writing, I think it really reminded me how mean you can be without while still being G-rated, because he is so mean and nasty, and he's mean and nasty in ways that, and it's like, you could tell they're like, yeah, there might be certain lines he doesn't cross, but it's not because he's a nice person, it's because he thinks he's too good to go there. It's not because he doesn't think that you're worthless next to him. It's because he knows that he's so good that he's going to conduct himself in a manner that he considers elevated above you. And that's why he's not going to take certain blows or go certain places with his insults. It's not because he's a good person or nice person. It's because he thinks he's too good even for that. You know, and I like that, you know, I tell people, even, this is not, even before the first movie came out, I'm like, I'm not going to see Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm going to see Dr. Robotnik. It's not that I want to see Sonic and I like Sonic, as it were. I'm going to see I want to see a Robotnik that's worth fighting against and worth seeing Sonic, you know, fight against and struggle against. That's really what I wanted to see, and I think they nailed that aspect really good. It's really not so much a Sonic origin story. It is a Robotnik origin story. Because one thing they could have gotten really wrong with this version of Dr. Robotnik is in Batman v Superman. We introduce Lex Luthor into this universe, and he hates Superman from the beginning. And there's not a good reason for him to hate Superman. Yes, he does have his monologues about, the gods and men, and he wants to show that Superman is not a god, or whatever. But when it gets down to it, Lex Luthor hates Superman in that movie because Lex Luthor is supposed to hate Superman, because that's what... But that's... Yeah, he just hates Lex hates Superman because he's Superman's arch-villain, and that's what he's supposed to do. But that doesn't work in the emotional framework of the movie that we're being shown. And like in Superman the Animated Series, we get introduced to Lex Luthor, and he does not hate Superman for no reason. Lex hates Superman because Superman keeps foiling his evil plans. And that's why Lex comes to hate Superman. Whereas in Batman v Superman, he just hates Superman just because he's supposed to hate Superman. That's who he is. So we could have had a Robotnik where Robotnik just hates Sonic because that's just what he's supposed to do. But here we have, Robotnik hates Sonic because on two different levels. A, the government hired Robotnik to go after Sonic. So that's his job. He takes his reputation very seriously in doing the jobs that he does. And so he wants to defeat Sonic, capture Sonic, learn him, learn what he can from him, exploit his powers to develop his own knowledge and technology to build more deadly weapons. And we hate him, and so he hates Sonic. He wants to capture Sonic because that's his job. That's what he pays to do. His reputation precedes him. He's kind of, a one-man, private military organization that's fully mechanized, where he controls all these robots, and it's implied that he actually kind of has the same backstory as Bane from in The Dark Knight Rises, where he was implied to be held responsible for a coup in the Middle East or Africa for shady purposes, to maybe capture an oil reserve or to capture mining rights for minerals or something like that. And we need to get rid of this armed band or whatever, and we just hire Robotnik. He sends his robots in, and that's that. And so, there was an anomaly. We think this strange creature was involved. Hey, let's hire, this Robotnik guy again. And I know that I like how they're like, really, you want to hire him? It's like, yeah, he gets the job done, but we kind of can't control him, and we don't want him to create a sort of PR situation we kind of can't control. So they hire him, but they kind of want to put him at arm's reach, so if something goes haywire, they can kind of disavow themselves of Robotnik and say, he was never really officially authorized or licensed. He was just kind of this rogue agent. Are you happy with the Sonic changes they made to his appearance after that awful trailer? I am happy with it. I'm happy with the changes. even if they didn't make the changes, I would have went just to see Jim Carrey's Robotnik. But yeah, they really went ahead and kind of, Calcaboy75, you subscribe to me on YouTube. Would you like me to make a video about the Sonic movie and talk about it more? Because that could be something I could put on my list of video ideas for things to do. Really quickly, right now I'm streaming. I'm aiming for I made the same death. I'm aiming for a 3 streams a week schedule. I might end up having to do 2 streams a week so I can have more time to work on YouTube videos, which may not come out that often, even so. But for now, I'm going to do 3 streams a week and see how far I can get. But to do more advanced videos, I might need to cut a stream from my schedule and do 2 streams a week. But I'm very happy that they decided to go back and redo the Sonic model. I don't mind that they were going for a more, quote, realistic look. It's just that they denied themselves. They could either do a realistic version or a cartoon-like version. And what they did gave them none of the advantages of a realistic version, and it gave them none of the advantages of a cartoony version. They kind of gave themselves the worst of both worlds, and for the character they wanted to make, and the way they wrote the character, I really don't, even aside from how it looks, I don't feel like that character, that lanky sort of character and the look of his face really captured the essence of the writing that they had done for Sonic. Now, one thing I think is interesting is that I'm trying to get the height on this jump, and I'm just ain't happening. There we go. I don't know what is this gimmick where they want to make a movie based on a video game or a cartoon or any property, or where they always end up deciding exactly 50 rings, which means we get to go to the special stage and maybe get an extra life or 2, or maybe even a continue. Going for a special... they do these adaptations. They always end up making it be about the character from, like, let's make a movie about the Smurfs. So it's about the Smurfs... there we go. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to see. Use that flipper. And I think I got both of those extra lives. And let's get the continue, too. Yeah. Now we can leave happy now. 2 extra lives and a continue. That's about as good as it gets. I'm pretty happy. Yeah, it doesn't actually... Yeah, and you can only see lives above 9 when you're on the score screen. I'm a Nintendo guy, so I was first introduced to Mega Man later. I first heard Sonic. I always thought about Dr. Later on in the Archie Comics run, there is a crossover series between... Because for a while, Archie owned the comic distribution rights to both Mega Man and Sonic the Hedgehog, and they did a crossover. They were able to negotiate a crossover between Sega and Capcom, and there are scenes where we have Dr. Eggman and Dr. Wily, and they become best friends. It's like, oh, we both make robots, and we both have this annoying blue pest that comes and destroys all our robots. Were we separated at birth? They were like they become best friends, Dr. Eggman and Dr. Wily. So it was it's a nice sort of synergy between those 2 characters. But yeah, there's this problem where it's like, we make a movie about the Smurfs. Okay, we'll start it off in the Smurfs world, and we'll have them come to New York City in the real world and have it be live action. The Fat Albert movie. The Fat Albert cartoon. We're gonna have them come to the real world and have to deal with being in the real world and trying to get back to their world. And then you could probably think of some other movies that do it. The He-Man movie did it, and that was probably because it's easy. It's a lot cheaper to film in the real world than it is to film in a magical world that you have to create from the beginning. I have less faith, and I always had more faith in the Sonic movie than I ever did in the Mario movie. And I actually, I'm not counting the Super Mario Brothers movie from '93 as part of that trope because, they do go from their world to the world where the like you know the where Koopa is from and save a different. They go to saving another world, but in that world, like Mario and Luigi are from our world. Our world's Brooklyn, and go to that other world. So it's kind of different. But I'm talking about cases where they go from the game world over to the they go from the game world or the cartoon world, and they come to our world and have to get back to their world or something. And they kind of did that here, where it's like, just have it take place in Sonic's world, where they have, you know, Longclaw the owl that's taking care of Sonic, and the tribe of echidnas are chasing them. And that's one cool thing. They use the map of that they. We'll see it in a second. The map that they use when they depict the island Sonic grew up on, they use the map from the Game Gear version and the Master System version. And that's a very obscure reference, especially to U.S. players, because in the U.S. most people, you know, the game played on the 16-bit versions. There's a 1-up hidden over here, by the way. Am I excited for the Nintendo worlds they're going to building? Well, they've been waiting. It's been, you know, they've been talking about building a Nintendo theme park for ages and ages, and now it's you get down there, but it's very hard to jump back out. There we go. You have to almost clip back out. And so now they finally signed the deal with Universal, and what I think is, this is the first Robotnik stage that isn't a freebie, where you can just spam him and blow him up right away, or where there's a safe zone where you can hide from his bullets very easily. All right. Why don't I pause here? And because we're out of time on Sonic, we're going to switch over to Undertale for about an hour, and then we're going to switch back to Sonic. I'm gonna switch to Switch. I'm gonna switch from my Analog Mega SG to my Nintendo Switch, and when we do that, I'm gonna talk about the Nintendo theme park. All right. So I'm gonna put up a screen while we switch, and I'll be gone for about a minute or two, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about the Nintendo theme park as we go into Undertale. Let's see. I'm not used to the switching scenes in real-time thing. All right, here we go. I'll be back in a minute. Hiya. I'm back. Alright. What's going on here? There we go. There's the game. That's what I like to see. Now, my layout looks a little wonky because I have my layout here set up for 4x3. Well, it's a 4x3 game, so I'm going to play it. So in the stream, it looks weird now, but when I actually go into the game, it's going to look... it's going to be perfect. Now I'm playing, just to give a quick little bit of background for people who... Now, I'm playing this for a friend who, who lives out of state now. He got nearly to the end, but then he lost his save file. So I'm playing through this for him so he can watch the VODs and see all the stuff he missed. So I've been doing a lot of the sort of things you can do when you restart. Or, hey, I'll see you later, TSS. Thanks for showing up. I hope you had some fun. So I'm going to be showing him, so I've been showing him just some of the stuff he missed. I've beaten the game before. He hasn't gotten past... He's gotten nearly to the end, so just, I guess, no ending spoilers pretty much. And he doesn't know about some of the alternative outcomes of the game, so we've just been surprising him with everything. Now, I've grinded for money. We've got 1,710 gold. So I've grinded for money off stream so that we could have an easier time and a quicker time. Now, when it comes to... where is it? What were we talking about? Oh yeah, the Nintendo theme parks. What I like... I think they're going to be good. I'm probably not going to go and visit them or anything, because... I'm into Harry Potter enough that I listen to Pottercast, since for years and years. Since between Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows came out, I was actually listening to Pottercast, and I still listen to them today. So I'm enough of a Harry Potter fan for that, but only enough that I only read the books once. I go to I went to the midnight launch for the last book. Yeah, now these are just normal enemies we're just going through. I'm just doing going through the action commands so that he will be able to so he could resolve the battle peacefully. So I have a weird relationship with Harry Potter, but I'm enough of a fan that I listen to Pottercast for over a decade. And even with all that interest, I've gone to midnight launches for movies and books in the series, but I never cared enough to go to the Harry Potter park at Universal Studios. And I'm probably about the same for... Yeah, I'm probably about the same when it comes to Nintendo. I feel like if I was a younger kid, maybe, the way my imagination works, I feel like I have a lot more fun just walking around in the real world and sort of, like, if I'm walking and if I'm in New York and I see, I'm walking down by the East River and I'm looking at the Manhattan Bridge and I'm looking at the ferries go by, I'm imagining, like, sea serpents coming out of the water and attacking the ferry or something like that. I've got the kind of imagination where I feel like the rides would interest me, but the theming wouldn't really capture me so much. So a theme park isn't really my thing. I'm really interested. All right. Oh, they announced they're going to do a film adaptation of The Cursed Child. They officially announced that. Because I know there was something where the rights for the movie, like Warner Brothers held the rights for the movie and everything, all the imagery and stuff related to the movie, and I think they held the rights to the books, but the rights to the play were based on the original manuscripts or something, so they couldn't use the trademarks, like they couldn't use some of the branding associated with the films and the Scholastic published books, I think. It was some weird thing where the rights were split up between this play and the books, where the play couldn't do certain things, that couldn't use certain imagery in the marketing. And I know, like, I guess maybe a year ago now, they actually worked out a deal so that the play Cursed Child could actually use, like, the regular, like, Harry Potter logo and font and stuff. I know that was going on, so there was more cohesion between the play and the film. Oh, you're okay. Well, if they're making a film adaptation of that, I'm probably not going to see it, because I read the manuscript for Cursed Child when it came out in book form. I was very not impressed. I just wasn't my thing. You know, anyone who read Cursed Child or went to see it, and they got a Harry Potter story that engaged them and that they were happy about, good for them. Me, I found it kind of disappointing. It felt like a fanfic. That could be a very lazy thing to say, but I say that in the sense that it felt like a story. I know it wasn't worked on by J.K. Rowling herself. I mean, it was worked on, but she didn't write it. She sort of oversaw it and approved all the plot points or whatever. It did not feel like a satisfying continuation as to what would happen, after the 7th book. Okay. Now, one of the downsides, maybe, now, mind you, if you're not into Undertale, I don't blame you. For years, I actually put off Undertale for a couple of years, because I used to work at this membership warehouse club. It was a nice short trip from, where I used to live. I don't work there anymore, but when I was working there, my friend I met in college, my friend's brother's boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend, he worked there too, and working in a place like that, it's really loud and boisterous, so when I go to do my break, I just want to chill and pretend the outside world didn't exist. They'd have to fundamentally change the nature of the story for me to really feel like it's been fixed. So maybe I'll see it on television eventually, but I won't be clamoring to see it, right when it comes out. I hope it does well for the sake of anyone. I hope it turns out, for anyone who cares about Cursed Child, I hope it's the adaptation they want. And maybe some people who didn't like the play or reading it will like the film version, but I don't think it's going to be for me. But, yeah, my friend's brother's boyfriend at the time would pester me while I was trying to relax and take my break, because he just wanted to hang out. He was basically the most stereotypical, annoying furry stereotype you could possibly imagine. And he would constantly pester me with all kinds of stuff he wanted me to look at. He wanted to hang out, and, hey, look at this trailer, look at this trailer, look at this. I'm mimicking me holding him holding his phone, like trying to get me to watch the trailer for Undertale. And it's like, oh, you're gonna love this. There are furries in it. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not into it. And like, if they're anthropomorphic or animal characters or something, that's not something that's going to make me like it if it's something that I already wouldn't have liked. And frankly, with the nature of some of the stuff out there, me not being familiar with something and then being told that by an annoying furry that there are furries in it is going to make me put it on a list of things to specifically avoid. And I know, even aside from that, the fandom, what do I think of the Fantastic Beasts film? To end that story quickly, I put off this game for years because he was pestering me to watch the trailer for it, and so now someone I trusted recommended it to me, and I was blown away by it. So anyway, the Fantastic Beast films, I liked the first one. I thought the first one was really great. It's really nice. It's great. I love fictional depictions of. I'm from New York City. I love fictional depictions of New York. In Oliver and Company, you have this beautiful Disney animated depiction of New York. And then in, what's another, Oliver and Company, what other, in Pokemon, in the Genesect movie, you have this depiction of New York as it would exist in the Pokemon world, and so I just love different depictions of New York in a sort of magical or sort of other sort of sense. So the New York of the 1920s, they did a great job depicting that, but then you layer in the J.K. Rowling's Wizarding universe on top of that. So I had a blast with the first one. The second one, I just felt like, well, originally the Fantastic Beasts films were going to be 3 movies, and then they announced later they're going to be 5, and it's like, it just, the second movie, the set work was great, the acting was great. I just feel like the writing was very, very messy. That's how I'd put it. It just felt sort of clunky and convoluted. Now, it just didn't. Yeah, Sonic's a lot easier to play while I'm going through this. Now, this is a part that. And now, if anyone wants me to read it and try to do the voices and stuff, I'll give that a shot. But right now, I'm just kind of going through this just to get to the next part of the game for the sake of showing more to my friend. So excuse me, because we've been on this one part for a long time. Well, monsters, not furries, but but like some people, I've seen people like hate this game because of certain characters like Toriel, like any two-legged character that's kind of like fuzzy or hairy, like can be, I guess, perceived as a furry, I guess. And I guess it's because of certain characters like that was probably part of the reason this particular person was so into it. Something about this area, the fact that the way the snowball, it vanished. The way that the snowball moves, especially when the sprite is larger, and the sprite moves around in a way that's incongruent with the way that an object in a game like this would actually move if it were on like a Genesis or Super Nintendo type system. Like just the way it slides around, you kind of no, it doesn't. It's not bad graphics or anything. It just sort of, it's not quite congruent with the way an object like that would move on an actual retro system, that in the way that this game's kind of emulating. I don't know if I actually even need to do that. This game was actually kind of inspired by Earthbound. Actually, Toby Fox, who was kind of the mastermind behind this game, I understand he did the writing and the music for this. He actually started off doing Earthbound ROM hacks back when he was a younger teenager, and later he was working on some animated webcomic stuff, and he eventually went ahead and created this game, with the help of a little team he got together. So this actually does take cues from Earthbound. One of the homages to Earthbound is in this game. Our main character there, they have a striped shirt on, and in this world that he's in, this underground, the backstory for this game, if you're not familiar, this takes place in an underground kingdom beneath this mountain, and there were two human beings and monsters both lived on Earth together. There was a war between them, and at the end of this war, the humans were able to, they forced the monsters into this underground kingdom and sealed it off with magic, where things can go in but they can't come out. And so this boy or girl, this sort of androgynous, non-gender specific, ambiguous gender, ambiguous race character. So it's kind of, they tried to make this person a real avatar. I named him Frank because that's my friend who I'm playing this for. He's a dude, so I just named him Frank. In this world, the monsters create traps and puzzles as a way to sort of as means of security, or it's sort of a tradition among the monsters to create puzzles and traps. And the puzzle here was a literal word search that Sans put on the ground for the main character to solve. But normally the puzzles are things like having to hit a series of switches in the right order or something like that. He put a literal word search puzzle on the ground. So that's what's going on in this scene. And now they're arguing over whether crossword puzzles or word searches are more challenging. And so, as this child that's fallen into this underground kingdom, you're trying to reach the surface and into freedom, which no human has ever done before. There've been many children in the past have fallen into the underground, but none of them end up surviving to escape. So that's the background for what's going on here. And we have these two skeletons. You have Papyrus and Sans, their brothers. Papyrus wants to be this super awesome guard, and because the order amongst all of throughout the kingdom is that if a human is found, to bring them to the king Asgore, who the barrier that keeps the monsters underground can be broken with the power of a human soul, so the order is to bring the human to Asgore so that he could take their soul and use it to break the barrier. And Papyrus he's of a very innocent nature. So even though he is this guard that is supposed to capture humans, I don't think he quite understands the implications of what will happen if he actually brings this human to Asgore. Whereas Sans, he knows what's going on, but he's just kind of playing along with the human. He's just like, hey, play along with my brother, be nice to him, play along with the traps and puzzles he puts on, because he lets you know, my brother, he's kind of a goofball. He thinks he's, a serious guard, but he's really a goofball, so, he's not going to hurt you, so just play nice with him. Papyrus finds difficulty in interesting places. Yesterday, he got stumped trying to solve the horoscope. The writing is what really makes this game stand out to me. The writing and the music. I mean, the sprite work also is fantastic. This game has a certain sense of humor. It's kind of derived from Earthbound in the sense that, like Kita said, Papyrus thinks the king just wants to meet the human, because these, I think, like the king, certain monsters live for centuries, but the impression I get is that most of the monsters living here have lived their entire lives underground and have never seen the outside world, and, are sort of unfamiliar with humans. Oh, I've got a whole gang of people that wants to fight us here. So a human showing up is kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime thing that they've been preparing for a long time. Now, the battle system here, if you're unfamiliar with the battle system, this is a unique battle system, and people throw the word unique around. Here we mean it. This is, one of a kind, where, well, the mechanics of it are that you could not, if you're good, you do not take any damage in these encounters. When the enemies deal damage to you, it turns into a kind of a miniature version of a bullet hell or Danmaku shooting game, something like Xevious or Ikaruga or Radiant Silvergun, where you're dodging bullets very rapidly, and if you dodge all of the attacks, you do not take any damage. There you have the opportunity to end every single battle in this game non-violently, and depending on your choices, how you could fight, which is how you'd fight in a normal RPG, by just attacking them to deal damage. When you act, you could choose a character that you're facing here, and then when you act, you could act based on, you'll see more how it works, but each character here has different quirks to how they act, and if you act the right way, you have the opportunity to spare their lives, and you could end the battle non-violently. So, here we have Jerry, Icecap, Snowdrake. Let's go with, let's go with Snowdrake, because now let's go with Icecap, because I think I could end the battle with him quickest. So Icecap, his gimmick, you have to, through the encounters, you learn how they you know, what their characters are like and how to interact with them. He has this hat on, and he thinks he's hot stuff. He loves this hat. He wants you to give him comp. You get him to leave the battle by ignoring his hat, which ticks him off. You manage to tear your eyes away from Icecap's hat. It looks annoyed. And here they talk. He's like, hello, my hat's up here. The other characters talk too. Now, each of these things that are going on, these are different attacks from the different characters that I'm dodging. Now, you only have a... Now, at the same time he was talking about, hello, my hat, now the Snowdrake, the bird guy on the right, he was telling a bad joke. He wants to be a comedian. So you make him happy by laughing at his joke, and then once you laugh at his joke... But we're gonna take care of Icecap first. We're gonna ignore him again. Once you ignore him twice, then you're able to spare him. It seems defeated because you ignored his hat twice. See, the one on the right's telling bad jokes again, and the one on the left is like, oh, well, I don't care because you're not looking at my hat. So we're gonna go ahead. Now, Mercy, we can spare. And now we've spared the Icecap, so he's left the battle. Now we only have to deal with the attacks from the other two characters. I think. You know what? I think Jerry's gimmick is that he doesn't attack you. I think that's what's going on there. So Snowdrake is smiling at its own bad joke. So we'll go to Snowdrake. We'll laugh at his bad joke. You laugh at Snowdrake's pun. Thanks, you're all great. So Mercy, spare, now we only have... So, like, what are you even doing? Jerry tells everyone it has to go to the bathroom. I don't know. Let's ditch him. You and the other monsters ditch Jerry when it looks away. You won. Oh, I think we could have... Oh, actually, I forgot... I haven't played this in a couple of years, so I forgot some of the non-violent outcomes. So that's how you... There's a switch hidden in the snow, so we're just going to hit that. That's something that's kind of an Easter egg. Oh, no, actually, no. Down here, the puzzle here is that you could walk through the snow and blow the snow away. And you could find a map of this area, and there's the red X that marks the spot to hit the switch. You know, the humor in this game isn't for everyone. So I can understand, you know, if you're not into turn-based... I'm not super big into turn-based RPGs, but the fact... The nature of the battle system here, where you can dodge the attacks, makes it interesting to me. It's more the type of gameplay that I'm interested in. Or that, like Paper Mario. I like that battle system in the Paper Mario games or the Mario and Luigi games. I played the Earthbound series. I played all 3 games. Earthbound Beginnings or Earthbound Zero, Mother, on NES or Famicom. That one... Let's see. What do we have to do? We have to... I think you have to sniff first? Oh, no, I have to roll around first so that I smell like a dog. And then once we smell nice, then they won't be so aggressive towards me. I think that's the solution to these two. No, I have to roll around. Yeah, now, Earthbound... Mother 3 has a action command battle... Well, it's not action command. Well, Earthbound has a typical RPG battle system for NES. Earthbound also has a typical battle system, but your magic meter and your health points, they're on rolling meters, sort of like odometer reels, where they sort of ring up. So if you take if you have 100 damage and you get hit for 1,000 damage, if you have 100 hit points, you get hit for like 1,000 hit points of damage. If you could get a potion in by the time before it actually reaches 0, it will save you and it'll start rolling up. So, oh, look at them. Yeah, the attacks are sort of based on the attitudes or the nature of the characters, how they act. So, like, these two, they're a husband and wife dog. They're husband and wife dog monsters that love each other. So, when they attack, their attacks take the form of 2 little dogs that are sort of throwing hearts at each other. The dogs may want to re-smell you. Okay, let's do it. Re-sniff. So that's Earthbound's battle system. Other than the rolling HP meter, it is actually a normal battle theme. Now, the blue hearts, they only hurt you when you actually are moving while your heart, or your soul there, well, the heart there represents your soul in the game world. Is that the furry turn on? Well, people make, well, like, yeah, like these characters, like you could consider them furries, I guess, or something like that. Like if you go on like the furry art sites, lots of furry artists will make art of these characters because it sort of has that appeal of a lot of, like any cartoon animals in general often get a lot of, are often sort of included in the furry fandom by furries. But in terms of anything, like that's something that sort of, like the game is its own thing, and then some furries, like because like of some of the characters will be attracted to the game, but it's not like a game that's trying to be a game aimed at like the furry subculture or anything like that, if that makes sense. Hiya, Azuress, by the way. I'm glad you can make it. Always glad to see you. Always grateful for your presence. Whether it's live or, just sending good vibes. I don't know if you, I don't know how much of that you saw. I'm not sure of when you came in the chat, but we're fighting a husband and wife dog. But we're doing the actions we need to end the fight non-violently. So we're going to, I think we could pet them. A dog that pets dogs, amazing. She thinks that we're a dog because we rolled around in the dirt, and the dogs, their sense of the world is based on smell. And so right now, let's pet Dog Emmy now. Let's pet him. Wow, pet by another pup. Yeah. And so those represent the axes that they have. The dogs' minds have been expanded. So they think that we're a dog. We petted them. They're happy because dogs are happy when they get pet. So we can now spare them and end the battle non-violently. Dogs can pet other dogs. A new world has opened up for us. Thanks, weird puppy. And off they go. Oh, rolling on a dead bird is better? Yeah. Yeah, that's we have to turn the X's into O's. And then once we do that, we can hit the switch there. What? How did you avoid my trap? And more importantly, is there any left for me? What do you tell Papyrus about his spaghetti? Ate it or left it? Let's tell him we ate it because we want to be nice to him. We didn't actually eat it, though. No one's ever enjoyed my cooking before. Well then, fret not, human. I, Master Chef Papyrus, will make you all the pasta you could ever want. And off he goes. He's easy to please. And let's see what's going on here. Oh, he's going to explain the rules to this puzzle now. Human. How do I say this? You were taking a long time to arrive, so I decided to improve this puzzle by arranging the snow to look more like my face. Unfortunately, the snow froze on the ground. Now the solution is different, and as usual, Lazy Brother is nowhere around. I suppose what I'm saying is, hurry not, human. I, the Great Papyrus, will solve this conundrum. Then we both can proceed. Meanwhile, feel free to try the puzzle yourself. I'll try not to give away the answer. So let's read the sign. Turn every X into an O, then press the switch. So let's see. So I have to find a path to walk all around, up around there, and then hit that switch again, and that'll take down these spikes. But I stepped on that switch twice, so it turned into a triangle. So now I have to restart it. So, oh, I hit that. Okay. So let's see. We'll walk in here, and go around. But now I'll have to hit there. I have to do something where I walk around there and then come back to that side so I can hit those last two. Or I could walk over here. There's a switch on the trunk of this tree. Press it? Yes. Okay. No, wait. Let's restart it. And now we've turned every X into an O. Yes, that is a little hidden treat there for those who poke around instead of just trying to solve the puzzle directly, you actually can just trigger the puzzle to solve by itself. You must care a lot about puzzles like I do. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. That's odd. But as long as the stream is running... Oh, you know what? I forgot to set the timer. You know what? Let's... Time's up. Because I set the timer for 3 minutes to do my little break, so people knew I wasn't leaving for good. Let's go for another... Oh, no, not that. How about... Yeah. And let's go for another 30 minutes with this. Let's see how far we can get. Because I think we can get to the next milestone at that point. Because my friends... Oh, okay. You're gonna like this, Escherust. Okay. Hey. It's the human. You're gonna love this puzzle. It was made by the great Dr. Alphys. You see these tiles? Once I throw this switch, they will begin to change color. Each color has a different function. Red tiles are impassable. You cannot walk on them. Yellow tiles are electric. They will electrocute you. Green tiles are alarm tiles. If you step on them, you will have to fight a monster. Orange tiles are orange scented. They will make you smell delicious. Blue tiles are water tiles. Swim through if you like, but if you smell like oranges, the piranhas will bite you. Also, if a blue tile is next to a yellow tile, the water will also zap you. Purple tiles are slippery. You will slide to the next tile. However, the slippery soap smells like lemons, which piranhas do not like. Purple and blue are okay. Finally, pink tiles. They don't do anything. Step on them all you like. How was that? Understand? Come on, no one's gonna remember all that. But, you know, it's just gonna scramble up the tiles and they're just gonna skip it because there's no way you can memorize all that. Great, then there's one last thing. This puzzle is entirely random. When I pull this switch, it will make a puzzle that has never been seen before. Not even I will know the solution. Get ready! Okay, here we go. Remember all the rules? I sure don't. Yeah, that just happened. Okay. Yep, the red tiles that we can't pass and the pink tiles that do nothing. How convenient that it just happened to randomly end up. Oh, another save point. Knowing that dog will never give up trying to make the perfect snow dog, it fills you with determination. And that's the thing about the save points. There's always some kind of warm, fuzzy feeling somewhere near the save point that gives you determination, and that is what lets you save the game and the logic of the game world. A dog just rushed in here filled with inspiration. It kept trying to build a snow dog that expressed its own emotions. But as it built, it kept getting more and more excited about the sculpture. Its neck got longer and longer, and it added more and more snow until it was rather sad to watch, but I couldn't turn away. Yeah, okay. You gotta hit all these. Oh my gosh, am I gonna get it right the first time? How did I... That's... How... There's no way I'm that smart. I don't have a solution here. Oh! On it. I'm glad that didn't revert the bridge. Yeah, that was... Yeah, I do not know how I just did that perfectly the first time. I... Honestly... Oh, there's Sans. There's a lot of dialogue here, but I know Frank's already seen it. And... Oh... That's a little creepy that the guy was there and then he's just a few feet away instantly, but I have to undecorate him. This is kind of a reindeer type monster, and I guess people keep putting decorations on him, which annoys him, so... Oh. A stocking full of chicken nuggets. Actually, that wouldn't be too bad of a thing to have in your stocking. Can't spare him yet. Remove the lenticular bookmark of a smug teen winking. A weight has been lifted. Okay, we've undecorated him enough, so now we can spare him. Yeah, there's an interesting door down that way. I don't know what's your deal, why you're both here and here. That's a little concerning, because it's not like those are different characters. It's the same character. He often does weird things where he just walks... It's like... He's just... No one knows quite what his deal is. I have no items, I believe. Yes, I have no items. Come on. Oh, there's 30G inside. Okay, and those snow puffs, eventually you will encounter one that gives you money. I always thought that it was the same one, but it turns out the one that gives you money is just the one that is the last one you check, so it's more of a bonus if you check all the snow puffs. Oh, I fell. Alright. Gonna slide on through this little forest here. Oh, were you... Oh. Oh. Oh, there's a little doggy there. No, it's a huge dog with a spear. Of course. This is the best song in the game, just saying. Let's listen to it. Let's back in. You call the greater dog. It bounced towards you, flicking slobber into your face. Oh, the dog's sleeping. Oh, bark, bark. You have to avoid the barks. Okay. The dog is petting the ground with its front paws. It's so happy. I guess that means he isn't holding the spear right now, but whatever. Greater dog's excitement is creating a power field that prevents petting. Oh. Greater dog is petting the ground. You make a snowball and throw it for the dog to fetch. It splatters on the ground. Greater dog picks up all the snow in the area and brings it... He picks up all the snow in the area and brings it to you. It's a bit extra, but... What's the dog gonna do? As you pet the dog, it sinks its entire weight into you. Your movement's slow, but you still haven't pet enough. Bark, bark. Bark, bark. Bark, bark. Pet capacity is at 40%. Pet. You pet decisively. Pet capacity reaches 100%. The dog flops over with its legs hanging in the air. We all know that pose. That dogs can do to make it look like they don't have a spine. He is the goodest boy. Oh, we've reached full pet capacity. This is the only time you hear the song in the game, so I just want to savor it a bit. Oh. Yeah, it's literally just a normal dog in a suit of armor that it drives around like a robot. Oh, Kalaka Boy, yeah, don't worry. If you have to leave for any reason, or if you just aren't interested in the game right now, or whatever, we're in about 20 minutes. We're going to go ahead and maybe go back to Sonic, if you'd like that. I bet you probably would, because you were really into Sonic. And it's just, oh, they actually... Oh, I'll have to check that remix out, Kita. Oh, and here we have Sans. He's pulled out all the stops. He's got all the most deadly weapons known to exist. He's got a ball, a spiked ball and chain, a spear, and a little doggy on a rope. I don't know what that's about, but I guess it's supposed to lick you to death? I don't know. Yeah, there's this theme in this game, this repeating theme about little white annoying dogs. And I think I read somewhere that that's the little white annoying dog is supposed to sort of be the little avatar of the creator Toby Fox. I'll be streaming Nintendo retro games too. My first gameplay, like Sega, Sonic the Hedgehog was the first video game I ever played. I was playing it on this very cartridge that I was using to play the game before. But yeah, the first game I ever played was Sonic the Hedgehog. So I was a Sega loyalist kid. I wasn't a fanboy. I wasn't one of those kids arguing in the playground or anything. I was more of a Sega kid. And then I got a Game Boy in 1995, a gift from my aunt. I got a Game Boy with Super Mario Land 1 and 2, Tetris, a whole bunch of the classics all at once. So they just got dumped in my lap. I just had this whole other sense of what it means to be a gamer and what video games can be. Because Nintendo has this whole other sensibility to gaming. And Super Nintendo is your favorite console ever? That's one of those... It's hard to... Super Nintendo is one of those libraries that's hard to beat. Those... What a fantastic library. I mean, the two big contenders in the early 90s were Super Nintendo and Genesis, but that's... Super Nintendo versus Genesis is one of those instances where the whole concept of the free market, competition and capitalism allowing for a better experience for the end consumer, because if the products have to compete, then they'll have to beat each other out and fight to be the best, offer the best product in the same field. Super Nintendo vs. Genesis was a textbook example of that working as intended, because they were both just constantly trying to one-up each other, get the best exclusives, get, when a game's on both systems, get the best version of it, offer unique features that the other doesn't have, try to have the best value in your games. Sega, they got all those sports licenses, got, sports stars to sign off on sports games. So if you're a sports game fan, often they went with Genesis. Then the Super Nintendo had so many great RPGs, and then so yeah, the Super Nintendo, that was what a great system. I didn't get mine until 2001. Now at the time, 2001 seemed like, I remember I got it in, I think, September. I got it in September or October 2001. I got my Super Nintendo, and at the time Super Nintendo seemed like such an old system. But now, let's see, that would be like, I don't have my calculator handy. I usually have a calculator on my desk that I could use to, well, I'll use my phone. Let's do some math real quick. Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah, Kid, I saw that you linked me to the Undertale thing. Okay. 2001 minus 1991. That's the year the Super Nintendo came out in North America. Oh, I got it when it was 10 years old. So that makes it pretty easy. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. So, in 2001, the Super Nintendo was 10 years old. That's when I got my Super Nintendo. It's the year 2000. It's the year 2020. that would be the same as a game or system that came out in 2010. I think Nintendo DS, didn't that come out in 2010? So Nintendo 3DS... No, yeah. Well, it came out in March 2011. So that's early 2011. So let's just say 2010. So in 2020, Nintendo 3DS is about as old as the Super Nintendo was in 2001. That is crazy to think about. Oh, your favorite RPG, your favorite genre is RPGs. Yeah, so there was a lot for you to love on the Super Nintendo for sure. Yeah, so in 2001, I'm approaching the Super NES like, oh, this classic game system, and now like, yeah. So Papyrus here, he's sort of chickened out from using all these weapons on us because he's a gentle soul. He doesn't really want to hurt us. All right. I'm going to save here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get up and walk around. I'm going to give myself a 5-minute rest. And then we're going to switch back to Sonic the Hedgehog. My face is tingling a bit and my fingers are tingling a bit, so I need to move around a bit. I don't know what the deal is. I spend so much time. I know it's 14 minutes early, sorry if there are any hardcore Undertale fans who want to see 14 minutes more, but this is, people who know Undertale, you know, this is a good place to stop for now. I've sat in this chair for so long doing so much work on the computer and, you know, getting things ready for the stream, and this is where I'm sitting here. This little setup is also where I use my computer at. So much time, so many hours I've spent not streaming, but for some reason when I'm streaming, now, all of a sudden, I sit down. Oh, you've been sitting down an hour. It's time for you to get, you know, tingly fingers and stuff. You know, so I'm gonna give myself, let's say, well, first I'm gonna get up and get this little egg timer that I have, and I'm gonna have it synced with the timer. The timer that's up on. Pretend you didn't see that. Pretend you didn't see that. Let's see. Test card console switching. Well, let's make the window here look a little nicer. Let's shrink that down there. Make it look nice and a little more professional. Let's set the timer for. You know, Feather Data. You know, this is only my second stream, so I've gone through. We were playing first. Okay. I do my streams. I play Sonic on Game Gear first, then I play Undertale for a while. Then I begin and end my streams with Game Gear right now. This is what I'm doing. And I begin with Game Gear, an hour of Game Gear, then I do an hour of Undertale, then I might do another hour of Sonic after this. And I'm about to switch games. I'm going to take a little, you know, water and stretch break. But I'm having problems where, and I've seen lots of streamers, very experienced streamers, have problems with this, where the game doesn't update. So I was playing Undertale the whole time. It said Sonic, so, you know. Right now, I'm going to update the title. At least the title changed, I guess. But I'm going to change it. It's already set to Sonic, so I'm going to set it to Sonic. And I'm going to set my timer, because I've been sitting for a while. My legs are tingling a bit. And that's, you know, not what you want to have happen. So I'm going to set for 7 minutes. And get up and did I just spend the last, like, minute talking with no microphone? Is that what I just did? Yeah, I think that is what I just did. So, excuse me. Feather Data. Yeah, I'm having problems lately. This is only my second stream, and I've seen even experienced streamers have problems where where they set up when they change games midstream, and then the game that they're streaming in doesn't change. So I changed it to Sonic, and I changed the title, but then it messed up. But I'm about to play Sonic again, and I've been streaming for a couple hours now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take a 7-minute break so I can stretch so that my legs don't fall asleep. So it already said Sonic. It's correct again, at least. So I'm going to go to my test card, and in 7 minutes I'll be back. So thanks. The version of Sonic, if you're new, I stream the. I'm gonna play other versions of Sonic 2 later as I do more streams. But I'm okay. You heard me that whole time when the test card was up. Okay. All right. So I'm going to. Okay. All right. I see how it works now. Okay, so I'm gonna on the test card. I'm gonna mute the mic while I'm off, and I'll be back in a minute, and in 7 minutes to be exact, and then we'll play Sonic for an hour. Hopefully, we're gonna go for beating the game this time. So I'll see you in a minute, and so. Hey, I'm back. A little early to boot. Alright, let's see what's going on here. Alright, thank you for waiting on me. Alright, we've got the Analog Mega SG set up here. So let's go back into the game. Well, let me make sure that okay, we're good. All right. Now, for those who just showed up, I'm playing this on my childhood cartridge that I got from my parents back in '91, which I'm incredibly happy that I'm able to do thanks to the Analog Mega SG console. Now I'm gonna play through this. Now I'm gonna play through this a little more like... I can't. My muscle memory's too good. My thought was maybe I'll play through it a bit more how it might have looked, you know, playing it for the first time as a little kid. But, you know, who knows how... I probably died at the first enemy playing it. You know, my first session with this game, I do very specific... I remember... I got to the second world of this game, Bridge Zone. I got there... Whoops. Okay, I missed all the rings. Yeah, I got to Bridge Zone within an hour or two of first getting the game, because... So I definitely wasn't too bad at it at first. I don't think... I clipped through the floor there a bit. Woo! Okay. Oh. I lost all my rings. So me trying to be fancy... Actually, I can show... Actually, I'm going to lose a Sonic on purpose. I want to show you something. What happens if you hit the ramp just right? This is actually a strat they use in speedrunning. And I never actually ended up doing it before until fairly recently. You could do it without the super shoes, but I think this will make it easier. I don't know what exact... You could actually outrun the screen and jump through a huge portion of the level if you do it right. But with that out the way, we've got our 50 rings, and we are on pace to maybe beat the game tonight. I had this romantic notion in my head that I'm going to wear this old Sonic shirt I've had since I was in high school. I'm gonna wear it every day, every time I stream until I beat this game. But we'll see how that works. Yesterday I came incredibly close to actually beating it, which I did not expect. Because, well, I say yesterday, I mean last stream, which was the day before yesterday. It was my first time really getting a feel for what it was like to stream and play at the same time, to play the game while, you know, interacting with chat and operating the broadcast software. And I ended up getting to basically the last area right before the final encounter with Dr. Robotnik. So I was pretty happy about that. This is part of why I wanted to stream so much this game with my own childhood cartridge of Sonic for Game Gear, was because it was the game that introduced me to video games. It introduced me to Sonic, and, you know, you don't see a lot of people playing the 8-bit version, And usually when you do, you see him playing the Master System version, because the Master System version was, well, the Master System was bigger in Europe than it was in the US. So while here in the US, where I'm from, the 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog was just something that well, Game Gear wasn't as... It was moderately successful, but it really didn't stand up to the Game Boy. But the Game Gear was, a portable system, so this is just your portable version of Sonic, a sort of pared-down, compromised version of Sonic, on a system that wasn't too popular. On the other hand, in Europe, the Master System was incredibly popular, and so when you have this release of... Yeah, the Chaos Emeralds are actually within the levels. The Chaos Emeralds are inside the actual platforming stages here. They are not in the special stages. When they made this version of Sonic, they decided to play to the 8-bit system's strengths. And what they did was allow the... Well, they basically said, hey, let's keep the things that work from the 16-bit version and do new things for the things that can't really easily be done. So they didn't really... Later 8-bit Sonic games for Game Gear and Master System did have loop-to-loops, but I suppose they didn't have the confidence to pull it off here. So they instead have ramps that launch Sonic high up into the air. And in the first stage, and only in the first stage, there's a Super Shoes icon that makes Sonic run much faster. And the first level of Green Hill is, I think, the longest horizontal level in the stage. So they use the ramps to launch Sonic high up, and they have the Super Shoes icons that give you a lot of opportunities to get a lot of speed, a sense of speed out of the character. But in general, and these are the bonus stages here. That rotation stuff they were doing on the Genesis, there's no way they could have pulled that off with the 8-bit hardware. I did almost miss my chance to get a continue. Continues are earned through boxes here. Now I have a continue. You only get to keep the boxes and rings if you actually make it to the end within the allotted time span. So I have a minute. So right now, I have to choose. I could either go and get more rings and try to get a 1-up in addition to the continue I got, or... Okay, now there's no real point. I don't think there are another 100 rings here, so you want to hurry up and get to the goal at the end of the stage before the time runs out, because if the time runs out, you're going to lose all of the rings and 1-ups and continues that you got in the stage. So now the map screen here, it's showing Robotnik. The map screen, you might recognize this map if you saw the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, because in the 16-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog, the original version, there was no map screen, there was no visual depiction of what the island looked like. But when they made the 8-bit version, they added a map to give a sense of what the island was like and how close Sonic is to getting to Robotnik's base. Was there a Sonic cereal? Probably one of the few Sonic... I know there were Sonic SpaghettiOs, because I definitely had those when I was a kid, and I think I saw commercials for them. If there is a Sonic cereal, I'm not hip to it. Yeah, my mom actually recently found a Sonic the Hedgehog shirt that I had, and the copyright date on it is 1994. And I know how old it would have been then, and I had no idea. I'm like, I don't remember having a Sonic the Hedgehog t-shirt when I was a little... Actually, it was like a sweater almost. And it's like a white sweater. It has a print of Sonic on it. And I feel like... I felt like if I had a Sonic shirt back then, I would have remembered it. Because I was so into Sonic the Hedgehog. I feel like I would have remembered having a Sonic shirt and going to school and showing off, hey, I have a Sonic shirt. I feel like... I generally didn't care what I wore as a kid. I basically just dressed whenever whatever my parents bought for me. But I feel like a Sonic the Hedgehog shirt I would have been especially proud of to own. Now this year, this wait this puzzle here with this weight that's bouncing Sonic, and each time he falls down, he gets more momentum. That was basically the first physics puzzle I ever encountered in a video game. And like I said before, how they're playing to the strengths of this 8-bit system. So, Sonic in this version, instead of the marble zone, we have the bridge zone, themed around lots of bridges and platforms over water. And so what we have here is what is a bit more of a slower paced Sonic the Hedgehog game, something a little more Mario-like in a sense. Now, I only played Sonic when I was a kid. I only played Sonic the Hedgehog on Genesis at friends' houses, which didn't happen all that often. And as a result of that, I really only grew... I didn't have a home console until 96 when it was... oh, I have to try to... I don't need the Chaos Emerald. I'm not going to end up getting all the Chaos Emeralds anyway. It's not worth the risk to lose a life just to get the Chaos Emerald. Once we beat the game at all, then once we beat the game, then we could really focus on collecting all the Chaos Emeralds to get the true happy ending. And this game has a... You're enjoying ginger chicken with rice for dinner tonight. You know, I'm very I'm honored that I could be part of your dinner time goings on. A lot of times there's different foods that like the first time I'll be playing a game, I'll be eating a certain food, and I'll think a lot about that food from then on. Like, for instance, there was an old PC game called Sandstorm. Oh, I gotta get back in control of Sonic here. I don't want to lose. Okay. There was a PC game called Sandstorm, and it was a missile command kind of game that was themed around the 1991 Persian Gulf War. And I used to... it was the late 90s at the time I was playing it when I had this memory. But I was playing this game a lot, and it was summertime, and my mom made some potato salad for a summer barbecue we had. And we had she made a huge bowl, and we had a bunch of it left over. And at the time, I remember times where I would just be eating this potato salad. It was really great potato salad. And I'd be eating that potato salad while playing this game Sandstorm. Other DOS games, too, that I had on that PC, but the Mom's Potato Salad in particular. And I did not reset the timer for the... Alright, let's set the timer. Did I close the timer? Oh no, okay, there's the timer. Okay, let's play for another half hour. I think that's a reasonable... Yeah, let's... 35. Oh, we got a few extra minutes in there. Yeah, let's play for another 35 minutes or until I get a game over. If I make it to Scrap Brain Zone, I am going to disregard the timer. Yeah, if I get to Scrap Brain, I'm going to disregard the timer and see if I can beat the game. Yeah, our memory is strongly tied to our senses, hence why you could smell a blanket and instantly know it was your baby blanket. Yeah. Yeah, so I was playing this game based on the Persian Gulf War. I don't want to take this in a political direction, but, you know, looking back on it, it's kind of a jingoistic kind of thing to have this game come out after the Persian Gulf War, where you're playing as, you know, American, you know, forces protecting bases from Iraqi missiles. But at the time, you know, I was a kid. I'm just playing a game, and you know, it's just a missile command clone. I think that game is on those DOS archives out there, so maybe I'll play that game sometime. I want to play DOS games, and I've learned how to use DOSBox to emulate. It's not just using DOSBox, but learning how to capture it well. But to really play it properly, I have two HD monitors here. I have my computer I have on my desk is actually a refurbished Office PC, and it's a 2005 PC, and it was one of those last computers that they made, those last desktop computers that were designed with the intention of having the monitor put on top of the computer. So I have that off to the side, and I'll switch streams real quick so I could maybe show you. If you look off to the side, you can see my keyboard here, and you can see some little toys I have on top of the computer, and you can see the edge of the monitor, and that's the monitor that I have my broadcast software on. And on to the right and directly in front of me, I have a second monitor that I am playing the game on. It's just my HDMI running through the capture device and just playing it on a TV. Well, that's not a TV, it's an actual monitor. Now, I do have a TV about the same size as this monitor, and I have a adapter that will adapt from HDMI. It basically lets me plug an HDMI into my original Wii, which is not an HDMI compatible. Wii is a standard definition system, so it will not use. It can't use a modern HDMI cable with it without some kind of adapter. And I have an adapter that solves that problem. Oh, I got it. You know what? I think they did some kind of trick where there are two instances of that one up. Oh, I missed the continue. But I got an extra life there, so that's cool. But I have a TV the same size as this little monitor I'm looking at and playing the game on. But I tried plugging in. I tried with my first monitor on the left, from where I'm sitting. On the left, I tried plugging in the Wii HDMI adapter in there and playing the Wii on it, and it did not really work. It had some kind of error. I think it's because the Wii isn't native HD. But on the television, I have a little television that's in my closet. You know, it's stored up because I'm not using it now. And when I used the Wii to HD adapter in that, it actually played it properly. So when I play Wii games on stream, I may have to take out my little TV and use that instead of this monitor. Oh, good thing I had a shield. In this version, Sonic is allowed to take a shield with him outside of if he beats the end of a level with a shield, he keeps the shield with him. As I understand it, in Sonic on Genesis, that's not the case. I have played it. I have it on the Wii Virtual Console. I have the card. Oh, I shouldn't have gotten overconfident there. I should have retreated after I got my first hit in. So, we lost. I have like 14 lives or 15 lives. When you're in the game, when you're playing the stages, it only displays up to 9 lives. But in between levels, during the scoreboard scene, you can see how many lives he actually has. But for now, it shows a maximum of 9. I think the logic was that they didn't want to, especially on the Game Gear screen, have show the 2 digits for 10 and up. So they just want to save screen space. They only show 9, but in between stages, you can actually see. In between stages, you could actually see all your lives. So when you have 9, you know you're doing good. You have at least 9 or even more. This Robotnik is once again very easy because if you stand here or duck in the lowest point, the bullets will never hit you. And the Master System version, the home console version of this game, which doesn't deal with the screen crunch of the Game Gear screen, you don't have to. The arena is bigger. They originally designed this with the television screen in mind, so the arena is bigger, and they're there are more hazards to worry about, so the battle is more challenging. They had to crunch the battle arena down, and when it's like in this form on the Game Gear, it is much easier to beat him because there are 2 different spots, actually 3, but you have 2 spots where you could choose to hide from him and avoid his bullets. Now we have Jungle. The Bridge and Jungle Zone are exclusive to the Game Gear version, the 8-bit version of this. And there's another exclusive zone at the end of this, that being a Sky Base Zone. in the original version on Genesis, the game ends when you beat Scrap Brain, and that's where you fight Robotnik for the final time. And this version of the game does not conclude at Scrap Brain. It actually continues to another world, that being Skybase. You could say an extra world, but it's not, because I think in the Genesis version, which I've played it, I haven't really played it, sat down and played it, daily with the intention of beating it since 2008 at the latest. And in that version, I think it's Green Hill, then Marble Zone, then... I was careless. That's a spot... I've got a lot of deaths in that spot. I have to pay more attention when I get there. Yeah, it's Marble... No, it's Green Hill, Marble, then I think Spring Yard, then I think it's... then it's Labyrinth, then it's Spring Yard Zone? No. Okay, I think... Yeah, Green Hill, Marble. Yeah, I got him. Yeah, it's hard not... If you lose the log, it's hard to get to the spot because the water drags you down. Yeah, it's Green Hill, Marble. Yes, a lifelong Sonic fan since 1991, wearing a Sonic t-shirt that's worn to heck, and I don't remember the level of the zones in the Genesis version of Sonic the Hedgehog, because that's not the version I grew up with, and this here, the 8-bit version, is what I grew up with and what I'm used to. So, as we do more streams, I look forward to experiencing the original Sonic the Hedgehog games, the premier home console 16-bit versions for the first time. I have never played Sonic 2 16-bit before. I have never before played Sonic 3 or Sonic & Knuckles, so I look forward to experiencing those for the first time on stream. But... Woo! Yeah, those ramps in this game sort of substitute for the loop-the-loops. Yeah, I already have 50 rings, and in this version, when you get hit, you instantly lose all your rings. You can't grab any back. I think that's more of somewhat of a limitation of the game hardware. Later Sonic games on the 8-bit systems did allow you to grab some rings back, but I think that's more due to them sort of getting a feel for how to finesse. Oh, I got an extra life there. I think that was due to having a high score. How to finesse more more performance out of the 8-bit hardware as they got more experience with how to use it. Because with any system, the earlier games tend to be more primitive than the later games as developers learn different programming shortcuts and ways to get the most out of the hardware. Yeah, so, yeah, let's see if I can remember this. Green Hill, then Marble Zone, then Green Hill, Marble, okay, Green Hill, Marble, Spring Yard, then Labyrinth, then Starlight Zone. And I remember in 2007 when I was playing Sonic the Hedgehog on the Wii Virtual Console, which is the first version of the Genesis Sonic the Hedgehog that I actually owned for myself. When I got to Starlight Zone, I was like, what is this? I have no idea what's going on. Which is probably how a lot of people who only know the 16-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog on Genesis feel when they go to the second zone and it's Bridge Zone instead of Marble Zone, Original World. So, let's see. Let me count real quick. Okay. So, Green Hill, Bridge... No, Green Hill... See, Green Hill, Marble... Starlight, Green Hill, Marble, Starlight. No, Green Hill, Marble, Spring Yard, Labyrinth, Starlight, and then Scrap Brain. So that's 6 worlds. And then the Game Gear and Master System version have, okay, Green Hill, and counting the final zone, I bundle that in with Scrap Brain pretty much, because the final zone is nothing but the last one. So Green Hill, Bridge, Jungle, Labyrinth, Scrap Brain, then Skybase. Okay, so both games, both versions of Sonic, both the 8 and 16-bit versions, both have 6 zones in them, but whereas the Genesis one ends with Scrap Brain, and I'm counting Final Zone as part of Scrap Brain. on the other hand, when you go to, yeah, this version does not end with Scrap Brain. There is another world at another zone after Scrap Brain. So let's see if anyone's watching who's unfamiliar with this 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog, and you're used to the version that ends with Scrap Brain. Let's see if we could get past Scrap Brain, and we'll see what continues on what could possibly come after Scrap Brain. And I think if you're unfamiliar with it, you're gonna really like what you see. We have 22 minutes. I don't want to. I do have other responsibilities and stuff like that. I don't want to be up all night. 11:45. It is already, and it's. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna call it in 22 minutes. I did not intend to be streaming this long. Basically, the main reason I've been streaming this long is because I forgot to set my timer for one of the games. I went long. Yes, I intended to play an hour of Sonic, then an hour of Undertale, then another hour of Sonic. At the end of Sonic, I forgot to set the timer, and I went overboard. I don't know how long, probably like 10 or 20 minutes. Then I took a little break, and I played Undertale. I don't know how long I was playing that, but I know I went over on that. Well, I forgot to even start the timer on that, so who knows how far I even got. And then, when it came time to start Sonic again, I forgot to start the timer again, so I don't even know if I've been playing for an hour. Oh, I almost lost my continue. And yeah, I figured out within the first hour of playing, the first time I ever played this game, I figured out very quickly that getting continues would be very important if I wanted to get far in this game. Oh, no. There we go. No. I want to get... No, I'm not going to get it. Let's go. Ooh, that was close. If the time runs out here, you lose your Chaos Emeralds. You don't lose it. You lose all of the extra lives and continues you earned during the bonus stage. And this version of the game, the bonus stage is... oh, there's Robotnik at the end of the zone. And this version of the game, the bonus stages are only used to collect... Well, for score, but no one really cares about score. Yeah, extra life down here. I'm not going to need it, probably, because I'm going to call the game in 20 minutes anyway. I doubt if I beat the game in 20 minutes, I'll be, like, shocked. Because I never beat this game before, so I'd have to be playing a perfect game better than I've ever played before. But, it's good for practice, and it's good for fun, because one of my main motivations for streaming was just to have a chance to show off games that I don't see getting played very often. I just like to provide the kind of content that I'd like to be able to watch myself. And yes, and there are no rings in these boss stages in this version. So unless you enter the stage with a shield, and this game allows you to carry shields from one stage into the next, but unless you have a shield with you, there are no rings. So every boss fight is a perfect run, and you cannot take a single hit. That being said, the 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog and this handheld version in particular, due to some of the concessions made for the small screen size, I saw, as I was jumping, exactly what was going to happen. As I was jumping, I'm like, I'm going to bounce off Robotnik and go straight down and hit the cannonball. This is actually, yeah, this version, one of the criticisms of 8-bit Sonic, and especially the handheld version, is that it's maybe too easy, but because handhelds tend to be played by younger players in particular, and this was my first video game back when I was a little kid, due to that fact, I think it's really kind of appropriate that this version might not be, be a little easier on the challenge. And even now, it's possible to beat Robotnik and still take a death from the cannonball. I remember when I beat the bridge zone, the second zone in this game for the first time, I remember just being impressed that different animals came out of the machine than in the first one. And now we're up closer to Robotnik's base, and now that we're up in Labyrinth, the camera view of the map zooms in on this upper part of the island. Now, the musical theme for the Bridge Zone is completely different than the Genesis one. The Genesis one is a more laid-back theme. I don't dislike the Genesis version at all. It's a nice laid-back theme, but this is the version I grew up with, and Yuzo Koshiro apparently decided, who's the composer for this game, a famous game composer, decided that, you know, we're getting deeper into the game, it's getting a little harder, the challenge is increasing, there's this pressure not to have Sonic drown, so we're going to make a theme with a bit more punch to it, a little more intimidating a bit, whereas the Genesis version was a little more laid back in its approach to its theme here. That elevator's a nice trap to catch you. Now, we don't have any suspenseful music, but when you reach, there's no suspenseful music when Sonic's running low on air, and on top of that, I wasted about a second there, bonking against the wall, so I'd rather just collect the bubble and move knowing that I'm moving in an optimized manner, so that I have the best chance of getting to the next air bubble. Yeah, without, because when you're, part of the reason this area is treacherous is because once if you're pressured and you're trying to hurry up and get, an air bubble before Sonic drowns, that's when you start getting clumsy and making mistakes and running into obstacles. There we go. Okay. I want to go back up there because I don't feel confident in my air supply right now. Forgot which way I was going for a moment. Okay. Alright. The real ideal way would be to grab the... Oh, there's an air bubble. Okay, like I said, I didn't get here every single time when I was a kid. And they just give away... Oh, no. Oh. How did I do... That was crazy. Did you see that? I didn't have the shield. I hit the spike. It registered that I hit the spike. Sonic bounced back, and he had his iframes, invincibility frames. You know that after hit invincibility most games. He took damage. The game registered damage from the spike without actually taking his rings away. That was very interesting. I like to see that in the VOD. And we're going to the special stage. Got 14 minutes. Let's see if we can beat the game in 14 minutes. It is 11:53 as I'm streaming this live. 11:53 Eastern Standard Time. Let's see, so that's 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is 4 a.m. in the United States. I mean, it's 4 a.m. in the United Kingdom right now, in the UK. Because the UK is 5 hours ahead of us, which makes it hard to, to keep up with some of the streamers over there. And I know that one streamer, I believe he's based in the UK, Fozon. He was one of the first... I actually got into Twitch because a personal friend of mine from back in high school started streaming, and especially once, and so I would watch him a lot because I knew him personally, and that's how I very slowly ended up getting hooked on the rest of, I branched out and started watching friends of his on Twitch because I knew him personally. So let me get a swig of water. Wow, 16 lives. I can't say if I've ever had this many lives before in Sonic the Hedgehog 1. Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I have an old friend that, oh, there's some nice stuff if you have quick enough reflexes to grab those, to get in that area that's up above where I'm standing here in the game. What was I getting at? Oh yeah, UK streamers. Oh, yeah, I was talking about the time, and how it's almost midnight, and, you know, how the UK is 5 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. And, okay, let's see if I could find another bubble. Oh, you know what? Downstairs, there's a 1 up here. There's a snowball's chance I could get there in time. Oh, I'm gonna make this easily, because this 0, that is a very long and generous second 0 on your air countdown. And here's the... But I'm playing really well right now. I'm pretty happy. Ooh. Why did I... You know what? I was thinking about I was thinking about something. I went silent. I started thinking about something, and you know, it's funny because of that, the way that enemy is programmed to act. If you die in that spot, like you die, I guess the game's enemy logic is still reacting to the last spot where Sonic was before you lost control of him during the death animation. So it makes it look like he's just dancing for joy at Sonic's death there. I actually clipped when that happened to me last stream. I got careless and clumsy. Why did I... Okay, that's more like it. Oh, I got careless and clumsy, as I was saying. And I spent a lot of time dying over and over at this part on stream a couple of days ago during my very first stream. So I should have known to be cautious there. Yeah, why are they fireballs underwater? Let's be real here. I mean, well, let's be real. Then you get into questions like, I wonder what civilization... Now, just to the left here, there's a Chaos Emerald that takes... It's a giveaway, pretty much. Yeah, and they just give you the Chaos Emerald there. It's weird, it's just a giveaway. Like, well, the Green Hill Zone one was kind of a giveaway, but... Wait a second, I just considered something. You know, in the yeah! I guess they changed the map design, because from watching... That's how I got... Fozon is a UK streamer, and he was one of the people who... He gives a lot of attention to the 8-bit Sonic the Hedgehog games. He actually, for a good while, held the world record for Sonic the Hedgehog. Not Sonic on Game Gear. He grew up with the Master System version. So he plays Sonic on Master System sometimes, and he is not only the world record holder, but he's the world... I don't know if he's the current world record holder, but he did achieve world record on Sonic for Master System on stream, and he... went on YouTube and did the history of the Sonic the Hedgehog Master System world record. So, so he is someone I've been very supportive of his support for the 8-bit Sonic games. And not many American streamers stream the... Oh, I died there. Not many American streamers... Not many American streamers play the 8-bit versions of Sonic, and especially not the Master System versions. I know Norm the Gaming Historian actually the VOD should still be around because it was no more than a month or no more than 2 months ago, maybe a month ago now. He was did a week or two where he was streaming. Oh, I was being. He did a good week at least, a good 3 or 4 streams. You know, 3 or 4 like 4-hour streams where he was streaming the 8-bit Sonic the Hedgehog games on their Game Gear versions, and he was actually playing on the analog Mega SG, the same FPGA console, Sega compatible console that I'm playing with for this stream, and I got the Mega SG. Basically, I stream because the Mega SG exists to a certain extent, because I always wanted to play the 8-bit Sonic the Hedgehog games on Twitch and give them some more exposure. And I've talked to several people in chat who never even saw this version of Sonic before. Oh yeah, the missiles are very easy to if you just I fell. If you stand on the edge and get him to shoot the missile to launch in your direction, I guess if you're it seems like if you're 1% more over to the left or right of Robotnik's sprite or hitbox, then that'll cause the missile torpedo, because it's underwater, of course. We're going to use the proper terminology to accurately describe the battle. He will then... Oh, wow! I must have hit the bullet by accident. Oops. If you're 1%... If you're whichever direction you are to the left or right of Robotnik is the direction that the game is going to have his torpedo launch you towards you at. So if you stand on the edge and have the torpedo launch, as I understand it, if I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, in the Master System version, this battle arena is much more treacherous. I don't know if his bullets can launch at different heights, because if they can, the torpedo is so easy to dodge anyway. I just actually realized how easy this is. If this... Yeah, I know. If his bullet shot at multiple heights, then it would be more of a challenge to kneel down. Yeah, this battle just became a giveaway. I don't even have to risk doing damage. Yeah, I just realized that this fight is a giveaway. You just crouch here. Yeah, this is the moment I realized that it's impossible to lose this to a certain extent, because the missile is so easy to jump over. And you just walk over by the time... Alright, on one hand, this is kind of almost a bit disappointing. I mean, these aren't speedrun strats. If I was trying to beat the game as quickly as possible, then this is an absolutely horrible way to play the game. Yeah, he even has the same patterns in which holes his ship comes out of. Oh, you're watching from your computer? Okay. Alright. Yeah, oh, that's what I want to talk about Phozon a bit. Oh, what was it? Orange flash. Okay, I'm not used to seeing that. Okay, this is where we were before. I'm gonna press pause for a moment. Alright, I said if we reach script... Okay. Look at that cityscape. Look at the sprite work. You take the idea of, you go from the green hill, and then it gets more and more industrialized, and as you get closer and closer, now you're in Robotnik's capital city. There's factories and smog. The afternoon scene here, the sun is setting. You have this techno punk sort of city going on. I would like to try to beat the game, but I do have to go to bed because I have to get up in the morning and do stuff. But I have ideas on who I could send you off to. If I'm not quick now. The other day, a couple of days ago, when I beat this, when I streamed this, it was the very first time I had ever reached Scrap Brain Zone, so it was very exciting. We spent a lot of time in the second act of this zone, which has a sort of maze, or yeah, it has some kind of. Is this game considered a remake of the Genesis version? This is kind of it's not a remake. It's considered. Well, it was marketed at the time as the Master System or Game Gear version of Sonic the Hedgehog. So the headliner, the original version to come out, was the Genesis version, and then Sega they commissioned Ancient, which is a third-party company. They go uncredited on the title screen, but in the ROM file you can actually see they put the graphics in to show copyright Ancient, but I guess Sega told them to not put the Ancient. So this was not made by Sonic Team. This was made by Ancient. And so the first Sonic game is already out, and they were commissioned to make an 8-bit port of that game. So they changed some things, and I think and some people do. You'll find people online who agree, especially if you look up the soundtrack for this and look on the comments. You'll find people who think this version of Scrap Brain Zone is superior to the 16-bit version. And I do agree, actually, because I think because Uzo Koshiro, of Streets of Rage fame, famous game composer, he did the music for this version of it. He made the unique Robotnik battle theme that you just heard while we were fighting Robotnik's submarine there. And what I felt when I heard this, and mind you, I'm hearing this version all my life. This is what I know Scrap Brain Zone, the theme. And by the way, I did say I never got to this before as a kid. I would watch my brother play it, and he was better at games, because he's older than me. So do I go up or down here? I forgot. Let's go up. And if we find a trap or it repeats or something, we know to go down next time. Every time I feel like he wants to clip into this ledge almost. Let's see if we can glitch the game out a bit. Let's be a little naughty. All right, our time is up. I'm gonna finish this stage. I'll only finish that. Yeah, about the music. I felt when I first heard the Genesis version of this, I kept waiting. Where's the melody? Where's the melody? When I heard the Scrap Brain theme, and it felt to me like. Oh yeah, this is where we got stuck before, the last stream. Because I never knew which way to go to progress. I think you hit this and then go down, down and to the right, down and to the right. No, down and to the left, down and to the left. Down and to the left, if anyone knows what that's a reference to. Yeah, and then we go up and over. Yeah, I just felt like, where's the melody? It felt like an incomplete track. It just felt like, sort of the ambiance is there in the Genesis version, but it never develops into a proper melody, and the Uzo Koshiro version, I think, fixes that. So I did that. Let's see if... Oh. That was a nasty... Oh. The teleporter. Oh! Did they ever make this Game Gear? Fans Okay, that's okay. That's where we're going to. Okay, we're gonna call it for the night there. Thanks everyone who's been in the stream, but there have been many fan remakes, fan projects of just hobbyists who go and take some of the 8-bit Sonic games for Game Gear. Games like, especially Sonic Triple Trouble is often considered the ultimate in the 8-bit Sonic games, where it was really rivaling the home console Sonic games at that point. It's like Sonic Triple Trouble for Game Gear. That game was only on Game Gear. It was never on Master System. People consider that it was almost the equivalent to Sonic 3 on Genesis. People consider Sonic. There was Sonic Chaos, which in Japan was called Sonic and Tails, and then Sonic Chaos 2 was called. That game was called Sonic Triple Trouble in America. I think it was a good marketing change to change the name, because there are 3 villains. There's Knack, Robotnik, and Knuckles that you fight in Sonic Triple Trouble. And there have been several fan projects to recreate Sonic Triple Trouble and Sonic Chaos as 16-bit games, or even more so in the style of Sonic Mania, which is, the Sonic classic 16-bit Sonic style, but kind of redone in HD. There have been several fan projects. Some have gone sort of incomplete. I believe there's some projects that have been going on for a couple years now that have a lot of headway in getting closer to recreating the entire versions of those 8-bit games in 16-bit. Sometimes I've seen versions where they take the themes of Sonic Chaos and Sonic Triple Trouble and make new maps based on them in their port. Some where they take it level for level and try to recreate the entire game. I'll eventually probably be playing those 16-bit remakes of the 8-bit games on stream. I will be playing the other 8-bit Sonic games and eventually the 16-bit Sonic games as well. My next stream is scheduled for noon on Sunday. Right now I'm streaming Tuesday, Thursday, depending on my appointments and my availability. I'll announce them in time and plan based on that. But right now I'm doing Tuesday, Thursday, and then alternating weekends. So this coming weekend I'll be streaming Sunday. So then the next one after that will be Saturday. Because on Sundays I do have a tradition of time I'd like to spend with certain friends, and they've been accommodating to my schedule. So when I try to have every other weekend, so at least we do something on Sunday. So I like to try to alternate so that way, at least on that other Sunday, we could still maybe keep up with that other tradition of the friend I'd hang out with. But on this Sunday, I'll be streaming at noon. I'll probably be playing Sonic. We'll see if I'll play Undertale as well, but it'll be Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Which will so noon, so it'll be 5 p.m. For Greenwich Mean Time and /UK time, and it'll be 11 o'clock a.m. for Central Time Zone, and for the other time zones you could work that out yourself. So thanks for hanging with me. It was a delight to watch your stream. Well, it was a delight to see you, Kelka Boy. I think you were You followed me, it seems, after I kind of went on my hiatus and I just occasionally post a train video, because the train videos really came after I stopped posting. Occasionally I'd post some. So I have lots of videos from the Bluebell Railway. I've taken videos of streetcars and light rail, and I have a lot of videos I haven't posted yet, but a lot of those steam train videos from the Bluebell Railway I have not even posted. So maybe I'll be finally editing those together now that I have the proper equipment. So, let's find someone to raid. I want to send you over to my friend, Ash Said Hi. She streams a lot of Nintendo and retro. You've probably, if you go around on retro on Twitch, you've probably seen her. She's in everyone's chat. I made a joke that she's kind of like Nurse Joy, and that, when... there's just one. There's just an Ash in every single chat on Twitch, and it's actually not one person. But you can't get. She is so positive, so kind, so supportive. I want to send you over to her. This is my first ever raid. So thank you for watching me. I'm gonna send you over to Ash. Hit her chat and I want you to type in the phrase in her chat. Stand clear of the closing doors, please. So stand clear of the closing doors when you go in. We go into Ash said hi. Ash. All right. Here we do. I have no idea if this will work or not, but thanks for watching. Here we come, Ash. Stand clear of the closing doors.